The Danes love to work. They have ambition, a drive to excel and create beautiful things with that certain Nordic touch. But they also love to not work. Where do they go? They pick up their kids and spend time with their family. They have a hobby. They do some sports, get out into the fresh air, the clear waters and the sunlight. They get 5 weeks of paid vacation and 12 months of shared maternity leave. Do they ever get work done? Yes, Denmark has one of the most productive workforces in the EU and one of the happiest in the world. Love your work. Love your life. Welcome to Denmark.
We are right here in Odense, in the middle of Denmark. Beautiful city, known for hosting some of the most innovative companies within the robotics and tech era. Also, I have to remind you all to be active on social media. You can use the hashtag #IntTalent2020. And also you can go to slido.com with your most burning questions. Please do so. I need your help to find out clever questions, especially when we have the panel debates later on. I will have a close look at Slido so I can put your questions also to the participants here on stage. I think you have all received a link to Slido in your acceptance email, and you can just check out that and find it, please. So now I'm really pleased to introduce you to our hosts today. Copenhagen capacity is one of the reasons that we are here today, some of us, and that you are all out there. They have a strong focus on helping global talent build a career here in Denmark, and also make sure that the Danish businesses are connected to young, talented professionals. So please, first here at stage, welcome their CEO, Asbjørn Overgaard Christiansen.
Thank you very much, Natasha. Distinguished guests, young global talents coming from all over the world. It is really a great pleasure for me to welcome all of you here in this great setting in the Odense Concert Hall. I know that it's not all of you being present here today. Actually, the most of you are behind the screens at home, and we're affected very much by this pandemic situation. But I really hope we get the best out of it, and it seems like we had a very good day yesterday. I would like to express my deepest thank you, first of all, to Odense Robotics and Technology Denmark and the city of Odense. Without you, it would definitely not have been possible to establish these 2 days of quite unique matchmaking. And thank you very much for engaging in this important agenda for the future, connecting businesses with bright minds. There's no doubt that our partners from the Danish universities and International House are crucial to this agenda as well. We have a great collaboration with you. And it's thanks to you that we can invite such a diverse group of highly skilled international talents for today's conference. We are honored to have His Royal Highness Prince Joachim as our patron. The Prince was unfortunately not able to be here today. He's on duty for Denmark in Paris and at the Danish embassy down there. However, he actually did convey his continuous and heartfelt support for the work of securing a future for young international talents in Denmark. He underlines the importance of the work in motivating and encouraging people from all around the world to experience the many opportunities that Denmark has to offer. And we, of course, hope that His Royal Highness will be back at the event next year, where we, of course, hope that we can all be together for a physical event with live networking. But let's see. Today, we'll focus on the skills that companies are looking for in the future. You will get inspired about the future of work in the robotics and tech era, and how this affects not only new technologies, but also the way we work and how organizations are structured. We hope to inspire you to stay in Denmark and learn more about the innovative business models of Danish companies. Why it's attractive for young global talents and how Danish businesses are differentiating globally. How Denmark is in the lead when it comes to innovation, offering plenty of opportunities for young and diverse talents like you. And how Danish companies can benefit from an international talent pool by becoming more innovative, more globally oriented, increase exports, and actually become more productive. So it's surely a win-win. I personally believe that career opportunities for young people have never been as attractive as it is right now. There's lots of opportunities where you can have an impact on your own career and be a part of an exciting transformation in companies. I only wish that I myself was a student again, about to enter into the Danish job market. I guess it's too late, and I have to wait for my 2 young daughters to grow up and actually follow their endeavors instead. So actually, why should you consider Denmark as a career destination? I believe there are 3 top reasons for that, to build a career in Denmark. 1, you get access to Danish businesses who are front runners in tech solutions worldwide, like we see with the brilliant example here with the robotics cluster in Odense. 2, the Danish quality of life, the work-life blending, flexibility of work. And 3, you do have a huge impact on your own work. Danish companies typically have a flat hierarchy, and you actually have impact on the work that you do and on the company. Today will be a day of exploring for all of us, and the time to be asking all the burning questions that you have at home to the companies. So remember to utilize the opportunities that we have with Slido. The companies are ready for the questions. Our ambition is to build bridges and facilitate the event and the meeting between Danish-based companies and young international talent. And we hope to inspire you to consider a career in Denmark. And we are here to help you to make the connections and hopefully get encouraged for your future career. Enjoy the conference and good luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Asbjørn, CEO of Copenhagen Capacity. As mentioned before, we are right now in the city of Odense in the middle of Denmark. Around 200,000 people living here, 3rd largest city in Denmark. And also I can say that it's a city transforming into a vibrant city focusing on new technologies and collaboration. On a personal note, I can say that Odense is also close to my heart. I work as a news anchor here in Denmark, and I work with the Danish national channel TV2, which has its headquarters right here in Odense. So it's also kind of my city. So it's a great pleasure now to introduce you to the mayor of Odense, Mr. Peter Rahbek Juhl.
I would like to welcome all of you to the second day of the International Talent Conference 2020 here in Odense, in the heart of Denmark. Welcome to all of you watching from afar. In an ideal world, you have been sitting here right in front of me in the concert hall in a room buzzing with excitement. But we have all had to adapt. We have been forced to find new solutions in the face of a global pandemic. But luckily, adaptation is something that we are quite good at here in Odense. In the last 10 to 20 years, the city of Odense had to rethink and redefine itself. Odense used to be an industrial city with large factories and shipyards employing many of the citizens. But times change. And when the orders of the factory started drying out and the financial crisis hit most of the world, we had to reinvent ourselves. We had to create a different identity for the city, and we had to find a way to reverse the negative trend. One of the ways we did this was by investing heavily and tirelessly in technology. by forming a strong partnership between companies, educational institutions, and the municipality. This became the start of the robotics fairy tale here in Odense. And now, a mere decade later, Odense is among the very best in the world when it comes to robots and technology. Our cluster of robot companies count more than 130 companies, employing thousands of people and generating massive growth and export. Our robotics cluster has attracted international investments around $1 billion over the last 4 to 5 years alone. Here in Odense, we have specialized in developing cobots. They are not meant to replace workers, rather they are meant to enable workers to do more. Cobots are like massive automated arms. They take care of all the heavy lifting and they handle the repetitive procedures that normally wear workforce down. With cobots, we have man and machine working together side by side, improving the conditions and well-being of the production workers. This was how the city of Odense reinvented itself, and in the very core of it stood a group of young men and women. They were much like yourself, I imagine, talented, ambitious, and driven. They worked relentlessly in pursuit of their ideas and vision for the future. The reason I'm telling you this story is because in many ways these are the people whose shoulders you stand on and whose footsteps you walk in. And you will even hear one of them today when Esben Østergaard gives his keynote speech in a short while. You have already proven that you have the drive and ambition to move to a foreign country to pursue your dreams. You have also been labeled as talents, and as I walked here from my office, I thought about what that means. Talent comes in many different shapes. It expresses differently in sports, music, or even academia. But the common denominator for me is that talent says something about potential. Talent is the promise of potential, the promise of future greatness. That may sound like a large responsibility and a tall order, and that is exactly what it is. We already know the numbers. Denmark will be lacking 19,000 IT specialists by 2030. A massive challenge and an awe-inspiring problem for the future. But you are all a part of the solution to that problem. You are the role models that are going to inspire young people from all over the world to pursue their dreams and ambitions in Denmark. And it is my hope that you will lead the way for future generations and show them when it comes to technology, IT and robotics, Denmark is the place to be. I hope that you will have an inspiring and exciting conference. We are happy to have you here in Odense, and I wish you all the best. Thank you.
So we can feel you all clapping at home. Thank you very much, Mayor. So for the next slot, as the Mayor also mentioned, we have invited an expert to put perspective on today's topic, the future of work in the robotics and tech era. Mr. Esben Østergaard has a technical background. He co-founded Universal Robots back in 2005 and invested in mobile industrial robots, which were both sold actually 5 and 2 years ago. Esben was the CTO at Universal Robots until March last year, when he founded his new company, Reinvest Robotics, where he now works along with his wife, by the way. They work to create a positive difference for the world through robotics aligned with UN's 17 Sustainable Development goals. So to give us food for thought, now it's a great pleasure for me to introduce the keynote speaker here, Mr. Esben Østergaard. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, hello everybody. So I have actually 3 topics I want to go through today. One is the history of robotics here in Odense. One is my own personal journey. And then I also want to talk a little bit about where humanity is going with technology and how this is playing together. Here in Odense, there was a shipyard that was building some of the biggest ships in the world. And since labor is pretty expensive here in Denmark, they actually figured out they needed robots to weld together these double hull ships inside the hulls. It's a lot of manual hard work to weld that together and climbing around with the welding equipment. And so the owner of this shipyard, Maersk, he donated some money to the local university to make an institute for robotics. It was the building and some money to get started. Me personally, I have a long nerdy background. I played with Legos and programmed assembler at my Commodore 64 and did all the nerdy things, studied physics at university before switching to computer science, and then I moved to LA to do a research position. And then I got attracted to this project here in Odense, moved from LA to Los Angeles to Odense to build this kind of crazy project where it was a transformer robot. So a little bit like self-assembling Legos, or you can say a material that could self-organize and change its own shape. So super crazy academic work, but a lot of fun during my PhD at the Maersk Institute. But there was also another project going on, which was about how to make robots more flexible in manufacturing. And we tried to give these guys a robot that they could move around in their own factory floor and they could program themselves using traditional robot technology. But we figured out that it was simply too complicated for these guys to know how to do this. So we could see there was a need for something new, a robot that was more easy to move around and more easy to program. And that caused us to start Universal Robots. And this is the other founder of Universal Robots, Christian Casso, here in the picture. And we were both employed at the university, but we didn't hand in our key cards when we quit. So we quit our jobs, stayed at the university in the basement for 3 years and tried to build a robot using free internet and free coffee. But we still managed to you can say, burn all our personal money in this journey. We had a robot after these many long years that kind of did the job, but we had absolutely no more money. So at that point, we got investors in. At that point, we also knew we had a product that would actually do the job, because this robot here in the picture, we managed to set up in a local greenhouse in around 4 hours and have it do a simple task of moving these trays of dirt. And we knew this was not possible with the other robot technology. So we had the product, but we didn't have the money. We got money on board, and you can say that the product we made is you can say it's like a robot arm, a traditional robot arm, but you can actually lift it. You can screw it on with some simple, you can say screws, 4 screws. And the control box is also liftable, and that's in contrast to what was on the market at that time from other brands. The control box itself would weigh 100 kilos. You run on normal wall power, so no need to special electricity. But the main trick of the robot is this thing that you're interacting with the robot using a touchscreen. And you are actually supposed to touch the robot while you are working with it. And that was, you can say, a very different approach to robotics compared to what else was there in the world at that time. Normally, you would sit in an office far away using some offline programming environment and then go out to the robot and deploy it. The robot was big and heavy, couldn't easily be moved. This is a new approach where you can say the person programming the robot and the robot are very close together, and the interaction is done through this touchscreen. So that was kind of our idea, to make a robot that we thought this is how a robot should be. And as you can see on this video here, the program is quite simple. So one move command and a few waypoints. And then you can press the screen, orient the robot so it looks right from the perspective of the user. Then the joystick on the screen kind of makes intuitive sense. Or you can press a button on the back of the screen, which is there. And then the robot goes into gravity compensation mode, where you can actually just drag the robot arm around as if it was weightless. So this makes it super easy to program robots. And that was the idea of Universal Robots that we founded. once we got this commercial traction, actually the first time we went to Munich to Automatica, the leading robot fair at the time in the world, we actually got the front page of this Messezeitung here. So I'm a very happy person on this picture because we just came out from Denmark with our new robot and we got the front page and a lot of attention. And since then, it was just an explosive growth for the company. We more or less, I mean, the graph on the right side is number of employees we had, and it was more or less doubling every year for many, many years in a row. So it was a super crazy, explosive journey. Organization building, sales, distribution building, and manufacturing, production, supply chain was all booming in these years. And I got a lot of awards and prizes, met a lot of prominent people. I liked the meeting with Al Gore a lot. He said a lot of thoughts in me about, he really wants to make the world a better place. And it kind of inspired me a lot, actually, to meet him. And then we also sold the company. We sold Universal Robots in 2015 for, what was it, $350 million, so $285 down payment plus $65 million earnout. And then I invested some of that money in another company that does a similar thing, actually, but in a different kind of way. So here it's the same idea that the robot should be easy to use and easy to program, but this time it's not a robot arm, it's a mobile robot. But it's again about giving power over the robot to the people using it. So it's very much about empowering people on the factory floor to understand and use the technology more than it's about replacing people, exactly as the mayor said before. So this was another kind of successful company that I was part of starting. And this total market that we have created with these two companies is now larger than a $2 billion market, or will soon be a $2 billion market. And as was said, both of the companies were also sold to Teradyne. Mir was sold for $270 million also. So two very big exits. And I got a nice car, a P100D Tesla Model S with 0 to 100 in 2.3 when it's in ludicrous plus mode. And I also, had a nice company, but sold both of them. So my challenge now was to figure out what to do next in life and what went well, because I have this philosophical inclination. So I wanted to think about what actually went well in all this. So of course we changed what manufacturing is, and also what has been mentioned earlier today. It was about taking a robot away from being this big machine behind a fence that kind of competes with people to becoming one more tool in the toolbox. And that is what we did to robotics in these two instances. But there's something deeper going on here, and I just want to share a little bit of that with you. So I thought about what is to be a human, and what drives humanity forward, and the obvious answers is money, power, and love. So this has been a driver for humanity for many, many years, maybe 10,000 years. So I have my take on definitions of money, power, and love. Me being a physicist and a computer scientist, I tried to define them. So money is two things. One is the tangible value, which is a number in your bank account, but it's also representing something else, which is, you can say, what the true value, whatever that is. True value is maybe harder to measure, but money is easier to measure. But I would say in our part of the world, we're at a level now where it's actually not money you need anymore. It is the value we're all striving for. In this part of the world, most people actually have enough money. When you get a raise, it's not because you need the money, it's because you need the appreciation that raise brings you. And it's kind of a score on how successful you are in your life, on how much money you have. But it's getting a little bit disconnected to this thought about what is value, because somehow the real value is not captured 100% by the monetary system, but it's our best take, you can say, right now. Then there is power. What is power? And for me, it's the ability to change the world, and the world consists of atoms. So it's actually the ability to move atoms. So in the good old days, the guy with the biggest sword, he had the most power. So that was you can say, the most primitive form of power. Legal systems and legal constructions have created a new kind of power, which is secondary power, which is what we own and what we directly influence, our property, you can say. And then there's like a third kind of power, which is the power of ideas. And I managed to get Putin and the Pope and a Danish philosopher Grundtvig on the same slide, which I was pretty happy about. But it's actually the influence you can have in the world, not direct or not through what you own, but actually the power of the ideas, which is a much wider reach, but of course much less direct. And then what is love? That was the most difficult one to figure out for me. So actually, it's these four things combined, I found out. So it's sexual attraction, then it's being needy and being needed, and then it's also something about feeling at home or belonging. And you can think about that. So if you have these four elements, then you can define different kinds of love depending on what of those four elements are present. And true love is probably when you have the full combination. So now we know what money, power, and love is. But actually, interestingly, this has not moved humanity. This has been the same for 10,000 years. So it's actually not moving anything. So what is really moving us forward as humans? And this is where this word technology comes into play. So when the first primitive humans, I couldn't find a photo of them, so I found this chimpanzee instead, they figured out to use sticks to get termites out of the termite mound. They actually, they got a lot better at getting food, so they could spend more time doing other things. Maybe instead of using 8 hours a day to get full, they could get full during maybe only 4 hours. So they had 4 hours left to build better houses or make war against the other monkeys. And that's kind of a journey we have been on ever since. And if you look on the internet, there are a lot of these funny pictures of how mankind is evolving. And one common thing is that at some point our biology stopped evolving, and it was through technology we are evolving. So maybe the fourth guy in this picture, he is more or less genetically identical to humans today, but our lives have changed a lot since that time, since we use spears to hunt. And it is technology we're evolving through. So I would argue that we are in a phase now for humanity where we are no longer our biology. That's not how we progress. It is the technology that we progress through. And so the evolution of humankind is no longer an evolution through biology. It is an evolution through technology. Our tools allow us to do more with our time and energy than previous generations. And that empowers us to do more, actually to the point where we now have the fate of the planet in our hands. So it's only up to us to do something about the planet. That's of course scary, and it's also you can say a big responsibility. Robots are a little bit taking a different twist into all this. So robots were only in the arts until the 1980s. So robots have always been deeply fascinating for humans because we kind of depict ourselves through technology. And that's another role of the technology. I think you can go back to the dolls they had in the cavemen had the wooden dolls that were, or drawing hunting situations on the cave walls. It was a way to reflect human life through technology. And robots also come from this tradition. So in the science fiction movies, you can see way back, we had robots of different sorts, way before robots were anything that could do something practical or useful in our factories. But we have this deep fascination to mirror ourselves in technology. And most of these are very dystopic presentations also. So robots were not a good thing, actually. They're very scary because we're afraid of technology, but we also it is also technology that drives us forward. So robots comes from the arts. So when Da Vinci in 1495 made a mechanical statue, he was not trying to build a factory worker. He was trying to understand what it is to be a human, and he built a mechanical statue that could move its arms and so on, more to mirror what it is to be a human. In the 1980s or 1960s, 70s, the first industrial robots came up, and they popped up in the world near automotive factories where they were doing repetitive work. So, putting the same thing over and over again, 24/7, 7 years in a row. And that's where the industrial robot started. So there it moved from being in the arts to being, you can say, a practical, useful technology. And that's where industrial robots have been growing up ever since. And that journey industrial robots is on is from a past where it was what we know from the body shops of the automotive factories, robots welding car bodies together 24 hours a day, 7 years in a row. And it's super dangerous for humans to get into that kind of line that we see on the left side here. Humans would get killed instantly by these big welding robots. But robotics is on this journey out of the factories. We see robots more and more in other industries, adjacent industries, hospitals, entertainment, rehabilitation, lots of other industries. And in the future, we will probably have robots that navigate around in environments like we are here today or in your homes, in the public streets. And slowly, robots is getting there. But it's not there yet. And I think that it's a clear trajectory. We're going there, but we're not there yet. And the clear tendency in this is that robots are coming from super controlled environments where they do the same thing over and over again. and then to the future where they'll be doing new things all the time. No task is the same, so every time they're reacting to input or needs of the user and so on. And there's another clear tendency is about safety. So in the past, robots were definitely not safe, and in the future, robots have to be safe in order to not kill people that work near them. You can say fall over or give them electric shock and so on. So there's a clear trajectory on safety, but also a clear trajectory on flexibility and adaptability to the human needs. Similar, we have used technology to produce value in the world. You can say more and more in the last years, and these 4 industrial revolutions are kind of depicting exactly how we've used different kinds of technology to create more value for humankind, to get more out of our time and energy. So we had the mechanical revolution, the first industrial revolution where we mechanized agriculture. Then we had the second industrial revolution where we had mass production, where we electrified manufacturing. Then we had the third industrial revolution, which is where the robots came in, which was computer-controlled machines, CNC machines, and robotics. And now we are doing the fourth industrial revolution, which is basically internet technology, you can say information technology that's applied to value creation in the factories. So it's mechanization, electrification, computerization, and the internet that's applied to value creation in the world in the big picture. So with this Industry 4.0, we are now at a point where factories no longer produce, say, the same Ford T black, but you can start mass customizing using advanced internet technology. You order your Tesla online and configure it, and the factory produces based on your configuration, and sure enough, at your doorstep arrives a Tesla exactly, or a car exactly like you have configured it. So that's definitely the way things are going right now. There's an interesting element if you analyze a traditional factory. I mean, a few years back, every factory owner's dream would be to have a fully automated line with only robots working like that. But because technology was not advanced enough, factory owners got fully manual labor lines where everybody was working like a robot. So all the women sitting on the right side here, they actually work like machines. They're doing repetitive motion over and over again, and they're not actually creating the value that the consumers need or consumers are willing to pay premium for, I would argue. So there's something important missing in this way of thinking about manufacturing. And this way of thinking about manufacturing also created, you can say, this kind of environment where we know from the old days this was a typical factory work, and I would argue it also influenced our school system. So our school system is also more or less like a factory where we learn to become factory workers. And interestingly, it's not a given in the history of humanity that there has to be a working class or there has to be factory workers. It's something that actually appeared during the Industrial Revolution. So it's not a given that we need to have people doing this kind of work or thinking this kind of way. So even office work in the old days were very much like factory work. So these students here went out and became these typing pools. And of course, today office work doesn't look like this anymore. We actually automated a lot of the work that these women are doing on this picture, but it's not like office work disappeared. There's more office work today than ever before. So today the CEO can write his own emails, and he has a lot of office people, but they're doing a lot of other things than actually just writing copies of his email. So even though work has transformed dramatically in the offices, it has not disappeared, and there's even more of it now than ever before. And that's an interesting thought, because what is it that happens when we get new technology? We're not replacing work, we're not destroying work. We're actually creating new jobs, new kinds of jobs, and I would argue more creative jobs. I have to poke a little bit at Bill Gates, because he went out a few years back saying there needs to be a tax on robots because robots are gonna automate a lot of work, and who will pay the tax in the future if there are no workers? But Bill Gates, he's the guy behind Microsoft Office, and he's basically the guy taking all these jobs away and creating this kind of work environment. But as I said, office work has not disappeared. So if you look at, there's been a lot of studies on where is work going now, and McKinsey has done a lot of work on that also. The interesting idea, the thought is work does not disappear, and jobs do not disappear, but tasks disappear. And then different jobs have different content of automatable tasks. So some jobs have a lot of automatable tasks, and some jobs have a lot less automatable tasks. But no jobs are 100% automatable. The jobs that seem to be least automatable right now is something with interpersonal skills and something with creativity. So actually sales, for example, is not very automatable because you need to have that personal relation. There's also teaching and so on. There's some parts of that that's not automatable. Whereas, for example, truck drivers and other, factory workers doing repetitive things, they have a high degree of automatable content in their jobs. So that's kind of the journey we are on with technology right now. We are automating some things, but creating new kinds of work. And what is driving this endless need for doing things? I mean, why are we not all unemployed? Why didn't we, at the first industrial revolution, just stay at our parents' farm and have the machines do most of the work and then just work 1 day a week instead of 7 days a week? Why did we move to the cities and you could say get, in the beginning, awful jobs at the steel mill, but slowly becoming this modern lifestyle? So what drove all that? And I would argue it's our need to be individual. So ironically, all humans are the same in that we all want to be unique. So we all want to have special products. We all want to realize who we truly are inside and so on. So we can't just sit back at our parents' farm and let the machines do the work. We kind of have to do something with our lives. And that's what's driving a lot of this. So I've been, especially with a background in Universal Robots, talking about this new idea after Industry 4.0, which I call Industry 5.0, which is about mixing man and machine together on the factory floor. So it's this combination of humans and robots, because there are some things humans are good at, there's something robots are good at, and it's clear robots would not know what the consumers want, what are they willing to pay premium for. Whereas humans, they exactly know that this color doesn't go well with this color, or this shape should be more round, or this is not a cool product. There's no way robots will know that. So if we somehow get the right combination of machines and humans in the factories, we are able to create even more value than one or the other. And there's been some studies of that already. So I don't know why it doesn't come. There's been some studies of that already. So this combination of man and machine is actually creating a lot of value. It's 85% more productive according to this MIT study. And when you think of it, it's not so surprising, because if you think traditional automation, it's all about lowering cost. It's optimizing. It's a cost reduction. If a car factory optimizes by 10%, so the manufacturing cost drops by 10%, the manager is doing an awesome job. But if they somehow could create even more value out of that factory, make better products, shorter time to market, build exactly what the consumers want, they might be able to double the value output. So that now we're talking about 100% value increase instead of a 10% cost decrease. And that's, of course, enormously more valuable. The margin potential is a lot larger than that. So if we manage to combine technology and humans in the right way, the potential for value creation is a lot larger than if we just automate and think about cost reduction. And I think that's what we have been hooking onto with these collaborative robots that we're working on. It's this potential for value creation in the factories. And sure enough, we do see a tendency that in the old days, factories were all about, you can say, the lights out, fixed installations, and doing the same thing over and over again. There's a new kind of factory coming up, a new kind of production coming up, where it's more about this human interaction. It's experts mixed with material knowledge, mixed with customer knowledge and process knowledge that together create these products of the future. And in the extreme case, you can think about, you can say, a high-end restaurant where you're not paying for the calories that you're not paying for the ingredients or the calories that you eat. You're paying for that unique experience you get when you go into such a restaurant. And the value creation in a restaurant can be a lot higher than in a traditional factory. You pay a lot more for the dish than the cook pays for the ingredients. It goes all the way through society. The factories that will be successful in the future, the businesses that will be successful in the future, are those that create this unique customer value, and that's best done in the combination of humans and robots. So I'll look a little bit where I think all this is going and into the future. So at Universal Robots, we saw a lot of interesting uses of our robots. So here was the Olympics in Rio, where our robots were filming that athletics stadium. We had a lot of robots all around. And these were all things that I had not imagined when I started Universal Robots. So I'm saying this tool that we made is being used creatively by a lot of other people. Here is I think there's infrared physiotherapy happening here for massages. We also have a robot here at a bar in Holland where it's getting the ingredients for the drinks. So interestingly, there's still a bartender that has the personal interaction with with the customer, the bar customer. But the robot is kind of making a show, but it's also helping the bartender getting the ingredients for the drinks. So I think it's showing the point that it's the face-to-face interaction has to be there, but the robot is adding value in its own way in this bar. Does this video run? Yeah, it does. So here's a company in Norway called Enlink that's using the robot in combination with a manual worker to drill holes in the ceiling. So it's pretty boring and hard work to drill holes in concrete ceilings, and modern buildings, they need a lot of holes because of all the things hanging down from the ceiling, all these tiles. And this company has made this combination of man and machine that is able to outperform the traditional manual way of drilling the holes. I don't want to run the whole video, but you can see the guy on the right, he's basically just drinking coffee and watching the robot do the work. But still, it's quite a lot faster than the manual way, more than twice as fast. So sometimes complex solutions can be found in kind of simple ways. I should also, where's my, we also begin to see robot surgery, and I think this minimal invasive surgery, I mean, it's super scary, of course, to have surgery by a robot, but it's also interesting because if you have to hit a 3D coordinate inside the body, robots are probably better at that than doctors. And using this minimal invasive surgery, you can actually put the stick in and blow air up and create a cavity inside the body that the robot can do surgery in and then pull out again, and that only leaves a very small hole. So that's the whole point of this, using robots for this kind of way, which is cool. And also when you, for example, make aircraft, you got to be pretty sure that all the screws are tightened in the right way. So this robot here is driving around and tightening all the screws. And of course that gives the quality of the process to the aircraft factory. They know all the screws have been tightened correctly, whereas if this was done manually, they might have, they would have to be really sure that no screws had been missed. And that's of course quite important to them. We also begin to see burger flipping robots for the fast food industry. Here's a robot doing the fast food burger flipping, which is also surprising to me. When we started robots, we had a company trying to make a co-pilot out of our robots. So this is a robot landing an airplane. I think the idea here is it's so complicated to get into all these old software and IT systems that instead of doing that and trying to reprogram the autopilot, it's easier to set a robot on the co-pilot seat and have it pull all the levers and so on. There's still a human pilot next to it, but the robot is the backup in this case. Then I just want to touch them. I mean, you all know neural networks is a hot topic these days. From my point of view, not much have happened in neural networks in the last many years. So the idea is more or less the same. We try to mimic the brain. From I did my PhD till today, the only real change is that we switched from this sigmoid activation function to the ReLU activation function. But apart from that, the real change is the amount of data available, and also that we now begin to have dedicated hardware to accelerate this quite a lot. And first, the GPUs are now dedicated chips to do processing. So the amount of data and the computation power has, of course, exploded, but the underlying theory is more or less the same. It's beginning to become quite useful in robotics also. And then another exciting development recently is, of course, the quantum computer here from Google, which me and my physics background is super interested in. And it will take some years before it really starts having an impact in our world, but it's super exciting technology, if you ask me. So as was mentioned before, so today basically I was in crisis because I sold my companies and I didn't know what to do with my life. So my wife, she made a PowerPoint for me with all these UN sustainable goals, and we went through them, and she asked me, what are you going to do about this? What are you going to do about this? What are you going to do about that? And I didn't know really what to do, but we figured out that education is probably key to all of these, but since I don't know anything about that, we decided to try to do something about it through robotics. And we started a company called Reinvest Robotics, which is trying to improve the world through robotics and using our time, energy, and money to try to make that happen. And just one company I want to mention from our portfolio is a company called FarmDroid that makes agriculture robots. There's some beauty to this because they use solar power to to do de-weeding of sugar beets. So the beauty is that it's the same sun that fuels the weeds that actually fuels the robot to de-weed them. So when the sun is shining, the wheat is growing and it gets de-weeded, but when there's no sun, the robot doesn't need to move as fast. And it's of course CO2 neutral, and it saves a lot of pesticides, actually herbicides from the farming. So that's one company I kind of like. But here in Odense, as was also mentioned, there's now a lot of different companies, a lot of different activities. It's also spreading out to all of Denmark and even outside Denmark a little bit of companies working in robotics. And there's more than 140 companies today. I've involved in some of them, but there's a lot of activity in robotics, and it's super cool to be part of course. And my bottom line of my talk is that we shouldn't consider man against machine, and we shouldn't consider man or machine, because if we didn't have machines, technology is scary. It has changed our lives. We risk the planet, but on the other hand, we would be living like this if we didn't have them. And most modern people, they dream about good old days, but when they try this for a week, they really want to come back to their normal lives. So, and recently was also the first time that the less than half of the population had to go hungry to bed every day. So it's not only a population explosion. We are also creating real value with technology, and we are able to feed more people and create better lives through that. So the future is really combining the people and technology, man and machine, and that's the way forward for humanity, I would say. So thank you very much. Some clapping.
Thank you very much, Esben. If I can just ask you maybe to stay a little while on stage, because as I told you, we do have some questions on Slido. And thank you very much out there for putting questions also to Esben. I will just ask you just a couple of them, if it's okay. So one asks, what can the robots contribute to the solutions for removing the poverty or supporting healthcare in other countries than Europe and United States?
Yeah, so robots, you can say, empower people to do more with their time and energy. So in theory, creates more value in some way. It's able to create more food with less human effort. And that's the same with all technology, including the mechanical harvesting machines and so on we had. There's another problem, which is more political problem, is on how to distribute this wealth. And technology itself doesn't make that happen. So there has to be some other structures around the technology that enables wealth to be distributed in some fair and reasonable way. So the capitalistic system is doing some approach to that. The communist system is doing something else. But that's a more political question, how to distribute the wealth. But technology overall creates more of the wealth in the first place. I'm very convinced about that. So you can say it's definitely needed, because if we didn't have technology, there's no way we could feed 7 billion people on the planet today. We would die, a lot of us, without the technology.
So it's all about distribution.
It's about distribution and having societal structures that deals with distribution. But it's also necessary to have the technology. And I also personally believe that more technology can be part of the solution. And that's why I mentioned that today, fewer people, less than half, I think it was 4 years ago, we reached the point where less than half the Earth population was, you can say, it didn't have enough food. So it's still a lot of people going to bed hungry every day, but it's going the right way. And this is the first time ever in human history we reached that point. So it is going the right way, even though it looks grim in some parts of the world.
Right. So Marko Milic is asking a short question here. Are we now in the fourth industrial revolution?
So yes, I would definitely say so. That's the digitalization of everything, and this conference is definitely a big testimony to that. That we're now a digital species. You can say you can sit in other places and listen to us, and I guess all of you have experienced during this Corona time that digital technologies are there. We can order things online, if it's our meal or if it's a new dress or something, and it just arrives at our doorstep. Exactly like we wanted it to most of the time. So yes, definitely.
So also one final question maybe, Esben, because I think all of you out there are also interested in in hearing people like you, Esben, telling about hiring people, also hiring people with an international background. We will have a panel debate right after this with young talents who actually chose to pursue a career here in Denmark. But one out there is asking, why do you think some companies would be hesitant to hire internationals?
My experience is companies are actually pretty happy to hire internationals.
You would be too, I guess.
I would be too, yeah. We hired a lot, and we have some of the team sitting down here. And my wife is, by the way, also an international talent, you can say. So I think most companies in Denmark realize that the Danish market is so small, you need to go international pretty quickly if you want to have a viable business. And it simply helps to have a more international team when you go international.
How?
It's a culture. It's a culture thing. It's less them and us. I mean, we're just part of a global community. If you also have some of that in-house, you can say. I mean, you're no longer thinking about Denmark as just Denmark. You become a global company by having the right mix of global competences. And I think that's very important for any company with some ambition. And most of the robot companies definitely have that. And actually most of the tech companies have those global ambitions. So I don't think there will be a lot of things. Of course, the language is an issue. Danish is a very hard language and a very small language, so kind of useless to learn. But you kind of have to learn it a little bit if you want to live here and have a normal life here. So that's, of course, a challenge. But, Danes are also very good at English. So normally it's not an issue for work, but it's more the life side is maybe slightly an issue. But it's also getting a lot better.
Yeah, and some of those topics we can definitely discuss when the young talents will come up here telling their experience. Thank you so much, Esben. What a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, as mentioned before, the next part of this conference will be the panel debate here. The first one today with the young talents that actually chose to get work here in Denmark, and they represent all the companies that are also present here today. So please just feel free to ask more questions on Slido directly to them. I will put them to the people present on stage after the break, because we will right now take just a short break, around 5 minutes. You can just stretch your legs, grab a cup of coffee. You can also just enjoy a movie that we made from last year's conference, and then stay online, and we will be back shortly.
Right now, companies are experiencing a shortage of young, talented business professionals. Growing your business requires an international mindset. Staying competitive requires digital transformation. And embracing tech innovation requires talented resources. Therefore, conferences and matchmaking events where international professionals and students from all over Denmark can meet their potential employers is a perfect way to accomplish this. And this is where Copenhagen Capacity comes in. We host events where companies who are looking to hire can meet the brightest international talent face to face. So why do we do it? Because a diverse workforce is 2 times as likely to meet or exceed financial targets and 8 times more likely to achieve better business outcomes.
It's been a really good day. It's been some really inspirational presentations, and I see that people put really courageous questions, but also the matchmaking has been really good. We see that people are very interested.
We are looking for talents who want to be part of this journey together with us, because we are changing our focus right now. And we need talents who are open-minded, who are curious, who come with different mindset, have a lot of diversity. And I think that's one of the main reasons why we host events like this.
We host purpose-driven opportunities and facilitate meet and greets that lead to significant outcomes for companies to succeed. Can your company afford to miss out on talent? Join us and build a strong reputation for your company as a great place to work and attract the most talented young international professionals.
Okay, everyone, welcome back. Hope you're comfortable where you are sitting, somewhere at home or in an office place. As mentioned before, it's the time for you now to meet some of the young internationals who are actually working now here in Denmark. And we, of course, can hear about your personal experience, your advice maybe. Feel free to comment on anything you would like. And also I will look carefully here on Slido so I can also put your questions to all of you present here on stage. So maybe we should start with you all introducing yourself. Just, 1 minute maybe where you can tell us about where you're working, who you are, and maybe your background. Let's start here.
Yeah, so my name is Carlos. I come originally from Spain, where I took a bachelor in electronics and automation. Then I decided to come to Denmark to do my master's in robotics here in SDU. And I was lucky to get an internship in mobile industrial robots. It was a very young company at that time. And that moved me through the ranks in the company. I started in technical support, then I moved to the development department, where I've been a total of 5 years now with the company.
Thank you.
And thank you for inviting me into the International Talent Conference. And this is Deepak from India. And I have studied in a bachelor degree in computer science technology. And I've completed my bachelor degree in 2015. And then I've joined in one of the company in the Tech Mahindra as a software tester. Then I came to the Denmark as my client people have suggested me to come and work along with them. And then I've worked there for 3 years as a software tester in Aalborg. And after that, I selected in the Universal Robots, where I try my skills and upfront and coordinate along with my colleagues. And it was very interesting and exciting company where you can work with everyone, including the robots. And thank you.
Thank you very much.
My name is Milad. I came to Denmark almost 10, 11 years ago from my home country, Iran, as an exchange student. I never left. I finished my bachelor. I moved to this city for my master. I graduated in robotics. And then in 2015, I started working at Novo Nordisk, first as an engineer in production. And then since 3 years ago, I'm working in our robotics innovation lab, where we're trying to bring new technology into our company and implement new solutions.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Robert. I come from Romania. I arrived in Denmark about 10 years ago to do my AP degree and bachelor's, where I graduated in Aalborg. Afterwards, I moved to Odense, where I started to work professionally here, first as a full-stack developer, and then I slowly moved to more front-end. Now I am with Esoft for a year, where I'm doing UI, UX development. We are building apps for both the web and mobile. So, yep, it's me.
Thank you so much. And Dana?
Hi, I'm Dana Hugh. I grew up in Dallas, Texas, and I made it to Denmark about 6 years ago. Since then, I've worked 2 years on a major healthcare IT project in Denmark. I did a master's at ITU, studying software development and specializing in machine learning. I got a chance to work with Siemens Gamesa, working with object detection for their preventive maintenance projects. And one day, the opportunity to merge healthcare IT and machine learning came up, and I had to pounce on it. And today, I'm working as a deep learning engineer at Ambu, where I get to apply deep learning solutions to enhance our endoscopy portfolio. I've been there for 1 year now. Thanks for having me.
My name is Arkadiusz Otto, but everybody just calls me Arek. I work at Shape as an iOS developer, so that means I build mobile apps for iPhone and iPads. I've been living here in Denmark for just over 2 years now. One of my primary reasons for coming here was to obtain a master's degree in computer science, which I've managed to do just a couple of weeks ago, actually. So I'm a fresh graduate. Before that, I have obtained my bachelor degree in Poland, also in computer science. And when it comes to my personal experience, I've been working as a part-time developer since my first year at university, mostly with iOS also.
Okay, thank you all very much. So let's begin now with you. Can I also call you Arak?
Yeah.
Thank
please.
you. Because there's one good question, actually. I have some questions, but yours, of course, are even better. And one of them, let me start with one of them, and I'll put it to all of you again, then we'll just begin with Arak. And the question simply is, what was your biggest aha moment when you started working at your company in Denmark?
So my biggest surprise would probably be that here in Denmark, the work culture is very relaxed and very casual. So I found it out in my first interview, where kind of in Poland it was accustomed to dress very nicely for the first interview. And so I did that when
like
I was
with a tie and a suit and...
Yeah, exactly. And then here in Denmark, the person that was interviewing me was wearing just the shorts and a t-shirt.
Okay.
So that made me feel a little bit awkward, but yeah. So that was also the experience when I started working here. Everything is just a bit more casual compared to the companies that I've worked for in the past.
And do you feel confident with that, or does it make you feel awkward sometimes?
No, not really. Once I've gotten used to it, it was really easy. And I actually have to say that I really enjoy it this way. I think it's very nice.
Okay, and Dana, your biggest aha moment?
Something that was really different for me was, I guess, sort of the flatter hierarchy here. In the US, the culture had been very heads down, work hard, and here my manager wanted to know what I thought about things, how projects were going, the direction of the department, and it was also okay to disagree with your higher-ups and be respectfully open about that. That was very different for me, but I think that this involvement and open dialogue has been really great, and it makes me feel more than just another resource and like a valued team member.
Robert?
Yes, I would say also the work culture has been a pretty significant change for me coming from Eastern Europe, where the hierarchy is a bit, your boss is upper of you, and then here is much easier to communicate and to relate to people.
How do you feel that in your everyday work, that it's different?
For example, we are sitting in the same office with our CTO and with our managers, and basically he's just next desk. So whenever we have a question, it's very easy to pop it out to him. So yeah, it's super nice, I think, and it's super relaxed.
And also to you, Milad, your biggest aha moment or something that really surprised you?
Well, just the fact that I got my job was a big surprise. Because I remember when I applied for my current job, in the application was written, oh, you should have 2, 3, 4 years of experience within this field and that field. And I was like, I'm not going to get it. But sometimes I got the job, and sometimes I realized it's not much about specific details in your profile, but who you are at that moment and how you fit that team. And that's what I
do you remember when you go back, that was like 10 years ago or something? What?
When I came to Denmark.
Yeah. So when you actually applied and you had in your mind, this will never happen, why did you apply then after all?
I knew I shouldn't give up, I didn't want to be a quitter. And I think that's in common with all of us internationals. We got out of our comfort zone and we constantly accept challenges,
So the biggest aha moment was actually getting the first job in Denmark.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So let's move on. Your biggest surprise or some moment where you kind of stopped thinking, this is different?
Yeah, I would say there is a lot of cultural differences back in India and comparing here. And I would like to say one of the example where I've attended for one interview. So as he said, I was wearing all suit and tie, and I went to the office, and manager ended up wearing shorts and t-shirts, and it was kind of awkward, and people are very friendly and open attitude, and the people, and there will be a flat hierarchy. Back in my country, there is a high level hierarchy where the higher officials, they will take the ideas and they will bring up, and then all the followers, so they have to follow those ideas. And here you have a direct contact with the manager, and you can just have a chat around, and you go outside for, Friday breakfast or Friday lunch or something like that. The people are very friendly and open-minded. And I really like the way here, the equality among everyone. So it is not like something you are in the higher level or something you're in your lower level. So it's about everything about the equality, I would like to say.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me it was a bit, I started as a technical supporter in Mir, and that was definitely not my dream job. I had studied a master's in robotics. I didn't want to just be a technical supporter my whole life. So after 1 year, I went to the founder of the company, Niels, and I told him, hey, Niels, do you think I should apply for the development position that is just open? Because I was considering it. And he said, yeah, I think you should. Like 1 week later, the manager of development reaches out to me and says, hey, Niels said that you want a position. Should we talk about that? I had a meeting with him and my current manager. 2 months later, I was a developer. I'm like, okay, great.
So that was kind of a quick path that
extremely
you didn't expect?
Quick development,
yeah.
And completely unexpected. I didn't even formally apply. He did the process for me. He put me in contact with the managers. He moved me from one department to another one, just because I asked him in a friendly manner.
So what you all more or less mention is equality. It's about like the straight structure, communicating much easier, and you said so many positive things.
Yep.
And that's really nice, and it's great, but let's also hear about maybe some of the challenges. So I guess there also would be challenges when you come from another culture, also another work culture, and then beginning to work here in Denmark. Carlos, what have the challenges been?
I guess probably everyone will say something similar to me. I guess the language is one. I mean,
Esben mentioned that before.
Yeah, Esben mentioned the same.
Yeah.
Danish is a really hard language to learn for a foreigner.
Let's just have some hands up here. Do you speak Danish? Yes. Raise your arm.
Halfway.
You can do like this also. Yeah, it is a difficult. How do you think it's important for you to learn Danish, or would it be okay just to speak English here?
I've been surviving with English for 6 years now, so I think I don't need the Danish. But as Esben mentioned, I think he put it in a really nice way. You don't need it in your work life. You probably want it in your social life.
Right. What other challenges could there be? You can just mark if you have something that you would like to say. Let's have a round about the challenges, because I guess there must be some.
Yeah. So my biggest challenge in Denmark, and something I see also in friends that are lower age than I am, it's finding a job. And actually, it's finding your first job. That's the most difficult part.
Especially for an international.
Yes. Especially.
Why is that?
To be honest, I don't know, but it seems like once you get that, it's much easier to advance in your career. And I think having no experience, especially if you're an international, then it's much higher to get noticed. For example, I've been struggling for I think it was 6 to 7 months. I was quite down at that point. And I knew I had the skills to be able to do the job I was applying for. And actually, I got lucky because my first job was the interview was also a technical interview, so I had to do something for them, and that's where I think I managed to step up.
So actually, what you're saying is the first door is the hardest to open and break through. What would be your advice to people out there sitting right here listening to you, thinking, I would like to pursue a career here, but I find it really difficult to open that first door as well?
I would say to never doubt your skills and always try to improve them, even if you're not working anywhere. Try to improve them by learning, by doing stuff yourself and by yourself. And the other part is to be persistent. I think once you break that first door, I think your path is much smoother and much easier to advance with your career.
Right. You, Mark, before.
Yes. Yeah, I think we talked about challenges in language and culture, and I think it goes both ways. So when I came here and when I started my job, of course, language was so a big challenge, culture. And sometimes I had the feeling that I am trying to put an effort to get to know the culture, to be what they say integrated as much as possible. But then I was not getting as much curiosity from my colleagues as I was putting in on the table. And that has been sometimes a challenge for internationals, that we say, okay, we're trying to understand as much as possible, but sometimes our colleagues or the system or the company is not that much interested into knowing your culture. And that's very important, this two-way of understanding that creates this harmony in a working environment.
Deepak, do you have any comments here on the most challenging thing about moving? Because I think there's, I mean, not only in kilometers, but also culturally, there's a long way from India to Aalborg.
There's a cultural difference, I would say, but in the beginning there was a differences between the cultural and as well as the language as well. So I would say the language is the first barrier where you need to cross over with it. And I have tried very hard in the beginning, so talking to my colleagues and my managers a little bit Danish. And
how did you do that? Did you say, okay, let's insist now, we have to speak Danish only in the next 2 hours, or how do you actually do it?
It came from my work experience. Like I used to work with the KMD as a commune data, so where they have their own website, which is completely in Danish. So I used to learn from that. So whatever the things, whatever the terms and technologies they use in those sites, I used to learn what is the meaning of that. So I speak along with that flow with my colleagues. They are very helpful, and they are helping me in any lot case if I go wrong, something like that. And in the cultural difference, they are open-minded and they have the open dialogue and everything. And they're having a better work balance. They give, equal priority for the professional life and the personal life. So that's the main part, I would say, which I like most.
Dana, what have you found the most challenging about working in Denmark compared to Texas?
Yeah, I think one of the challenges that I had was feeling this pressure to find work and find a job that would let me stay. And I think something that helped was being open-minded and being okay with timelines looking different and career paths looking different for everybody. Sometimes there wasn't really a clear next step for me, and I wasn't really sure I saw something that fit what I felt I could do, but I just got creative and looked at what was available, and you can really turn anything into an opportunity. So, yes.
Yeah, there's a question I want to put. Maybe you can have a go at this, Dana. It's Esra. Thank you, Esra, for putting this good question, I think. How do you cope with Danish humor at work?
Oh, it's awful.
Is it?
I'm really bad at it. But now I've learned that if my colleagues are saying something and then I'm just reacting in a really weird way, that's a hint that, oh, this is definitely Danish humor.
Is it really different?
It's definitely dry, but sometimes there's just no other hints that this is a joke, and so.
Yeah.
But it's fun.
Any of you have comments on that? How to cope with the Danish humor while working?
Just a smile.
Just laugh at their stupid jokes anyway. Okay. So let us have. Also, I know all of you out there. Lots of you would be interested in the theme you also mentioned about the first door being maybe the hardest to open. Any good advice, any tips about the application process? I mean, if you sit out there, you want to pursue a career here, you want to open that first heavy door, what would be your advice on writing the perfect application?
There are some terms, I would say like 6 or 5, which you need to put down in your list. For example, first you need to access yourself in the beginning, where you need to identify your skills so that you can put it in the CV. So it should be very short, and the Danes prefer that. So, and then you have to open up for the opportunities according to your skills and sets. And you need to make a list of those opportunities, and you need to explore them after that. And then you need to shorten your the way of explore. For example, once you are exploring, you will come to know what is fit for you and what is not fit for you. And then you can shorten your search, and then you can go for interviews and attend for them. A couple of interviews might work and might not work. And then you don't have to lose your hopes, and you should keep hard working on that. And after that, once you are getting to the job, you need to identify your goals so that it will be very useful for another companies where you are going to join.
And of course, in that process, we all have made mistakes, or we have all experienced something that we could do different. Next time, Carlos, do you have anything that you maybe learned from in that process of applying?
I don't really know, because I was actually really lucky. I never did a official application.
No, as you mentioned
exactly,
before. As you mentioned before, but do you think also before just that job, was there anything where you had thoughts on? I mean, what should I focus on here? Should it be my grades? Should it be my skills? Should it be what kind of strategy?
I don't know. Like that I had clear. Like I always had a focus on grades and skills. Actually, like I knew I wanted to get
equally both.
Equally both. Like I wanted to get good grades, and I actually saw, at least at the early days of the company, that was something the hiring people were putting a lot of look at. They were
also
really
your
interested.
Grades. So they were actually focused also on your grades.
I would say so. They were really, like, they were the first filtering would come in grades, probably, as a very rough filtering. And then from there on, then starting to look at individual skills and people and whatnot.
You, Mart?
I actually have something in contrast with what Carlos.
Okay.
He's actually, I know him from my studies when I was here. In some countries, also in my country, they care about which university you graduated, your grades. But I had the feeling that sometimes here, they don't much care about that. Also, as I said, my first job that I got had almost nothing to do with what I was graduated. But then I realized here in Denmark, they also pay so much attention to who you are as a person, and at that time, can you fit into that team? Because there's so much focus on teamwork here. So soft skills come very much in picture. And I have a great advice for a lot of students who want to apply, to emphasize on who you are as a person and your soft skills, and improve your soft skills. I was doing a lot of volunteer work when I was a student, and I managed to gain those soft skills already in parallel with my education before coming to job market.
So your experience is actually that your personality, your personal skills would be more important than your grades and then which university. Could you tell us a little more about that? Also maybe about what kind of volunteer work you did that would maybe, interest your employers?
So it very much depends on maybe in terms of Carlos, or if you want to apply for a PhD, of course your grades and those things comes into picture. But as I said, when I started, I was so surprised. It got me by surprise that I started to be a developer, but now I'm more like a production engineer. That's nothing to do with that. I was doing volunteer in an international student organization, taking care of international students here in Owens, exchange students, learning a lot about culture, be a board member. So things such as communication, networking, team player, stakeholder management, those things are the soft skills that I say that will come into picture, especially if you're taking a job where you are really relying on other colleagues, on other teams, and you need to be the guy in between to connect everyone together.
Right. And Arak, what would you say would be the most important skills in your job, is if we don't look at grades and academic skills?
Yeah, so my advice would be to, if you want to show your technical skills in a job interview, it's very helpful to show some kind of a project that you've worked on in the past. And so in my case, when I was applying as an iOS developer, I showed a mobile app that I've written in my free time. And this doesn't necessarily have to be an app that you've written in your free time. It can be some kind of project that you worked on at university, but something that is related to the position that you're applying, because this creates a lot of opportunity to kind of discuss the problems that you tackled, and also show your technical skills and show how you understand the technology that you used to solve the problem. And this also shows that, that you're a creative person.
And what about, let's also talk a bit about your social life, because that's also important, I think, if you want to stay in Denmark. You have a life outside work. So how difficult or easy has it been for you to kind of get the whole full circle? You're laughing.
I have a saying on that. It was easy with internationals, but difficult with Danes. And then I have this famous thing that I say that Danes are like pineapples. So it's a good
That sounds sweet.
Yes. So the thing is that the first impression you get from a pineapple, you just don't casually go and buy a pineapple in supermarket and eat. You have to be mentally prepared to peel it off and put an effort, and then you go for the pineapple. But normally you just ignore it. And I was like that in the beginning. It was so hard to get into this Danish community and find Danish friends in university, at work. So I was just, ignoring it and be with my international community. But then later on, especially during my job, I was like, it's actually my responsibility to put an effort, peel this pineapple off, and then find this soft and sweet personality inside. And that's what I say to all the internationals here is that, yes, Danes, normally they have this big shield around them when you first encounter them, but they are actually soft and sweet people if you put an effort to get into their community, that there are different ways to do that.
How did you actually do that?
Language was very important. As I said, for our technical work, language was not that a kind of a barrier. But it was a barrier when it comes to the social life. Like during lunch, my colleagues were speaking Danish, making jokes, and I was just, sitting and not laughing at all. And they thought I'm a snob. But then, I started to do these Danish weeks, Danish months with my colleagues where they force me. They teach me some nice Danish jokes and humor. And then I was also using that. And then slowly, the language helped me to get into the Danish community and try to do Danish way of life, do more hygge with your friends and colleagues. And it helped a lot.
Yeah. And anyone else has comments on how to find not only work, but also hygge in Denmark? Any experience, any advice you want to give? Yeah. The picture with the pineapple is good. Yeah.
I would actually say try to find the Danish people out of work. Like I have a lot of really good friends now that I have met through volleyball and climbing. Actually, I do both sports, and finding them out of their work zones. You meet them in a different context. They are maybe a bit more relaxed than at work, like more friendly. You start connecting with them, and I have made a lot of good friendships like that.
Right. Also, one question here on Slido, quite interesting, I think, that is like how you found that the current job you're in right now was the right job for you. What caught your attention? What made you think, I would be the right person for this job, Dana?
Okay. So I think one of the big motivators or aha moments about even the job I'm in now is getting a chance to bring new technology and apply it in a meaningful way. Especially with Ambu, we are able to work on solutions that support medical workers and improve patient care, and that is a strong motivator for me. And I think at this company, I can feel this shared motivation among my colleagues. So I have, luckily, an amazing community, an amazing team, and that is really valuable.
And Robert, what caught your eye when applying for the job you're in now?
Yeah, so when I applied, I did not know much about Esoft, just besides the things that I read on the internet. I went there because they called me for an interview, and at the interview I realized that this is the place I want to be. People were super friendly. We had an open chat, and we talked about technology, lifestyle, family, and all that. It was super interesting, and it's been a good ride so far.
Yeah. Any more comments on that? Maybe Deepak?
I would say that in the beginning, in my degree, I have done some projects on the robots. So I'm very much interested in the robotic culture. And when I applied for the universal robots, it was a very quite good profile where I feel like I was very fitting to that profile. So when I was having an interview, it was just a normal discussion and not about much technical stuff and everything. It's more like seeing you in a good attitude and a shape. So they are seeking for that. And I had a chat with my managers and most of my colleagues, and where you can, along with your skills, you should have a good attitude to get into the company.
There's a very specific question here. Maybe Deepak, you can have a go. I don't know, Carlos, maybe you can also have a go at this. What job application tips do you have for a software developer who wants to work with robotics?
Maybe a software developer could answer this better than me.
Yeah, I would say it depends a little bit. I mean, there is
it's a
different paths within
yeah.
the companies
Right.
for a software developer. You can focus entirely on the software, and then you need to be a more purely software-oriented person, I would say. It's a bit hard to explain in general terms, but then within this company, there's always a job where you require more of the robotics engineer profile. Then if you're aiming for something like that, then you need to prove you have some knowledge of both hardware and software in the system, so you know how to integrate them. So yeah, any relation to the robots, like if you have any past experience with robots from let's say playing with a Lego Mindstorm, that's a great thing. Like if you can,
you could also mention something like that.
You can mention something like that if you have previous experience, even with toys. Any programming that involves robots, even as toys, that's already great. As like that heavy door we were talking about before, you already opened it a little bit with that.
Yeah, and that maybe it's a question that could also lead to a theme about how much research you actually need to do before applying. I mean, you want to join a Danish company, you want to write an application, and I know, Carlos, that your way in there maybe was different, but how much research do you need to do before actually applying?
I think it's a very good question and important factor. I have friends who approach me about a potential job position at my company. And I give them all the information they know that they might need to, direct their application and profile. So depending on if the team is focusing on more application layer or hardware level, and it's very important to understand what do they need, and you can always find something in your profile. Also, there's so much, read the application thoroughly. There are a lot of nice details written in the application that you can understand and try to tackle those one by one in your application. And then they will be very impressed when they see the profile and say, okay, this is exactly what we want.
Yeah. Any advice on that? How much research did you do?
I think one important aspect that especially newcomers to job market don't do is research your job and fully understand what you're applying for and what are your expectations from that job and what are the employer's expectations from the job, because you might end up in situations where they do not match and then you're stuck with a job that you don't like. So I can say that from my personal experience, where I was super hyped for a position and I got hired, and 3 months afterwards I realized this is not the place for me, so I stepped down. So I think it's important to first of all understand what you really want from it, and then communicate it to the employer and try to see if you have the same views about the position.
Right, Dana.
Going off of that, I think seeing some job descriptions here, sometimes you see an actual name and a contact, like a phone number or an email for the person who created that job. So I would say that's a huge treasure, and you could definitely take advantage of that to do some research and make a good first impression.
Did you do that yourself?
I did. I looked on LinkedIn for this person to look at the background, and I did send that person a message just to say hi.
And so another question here from Slido. We started off, I asked you this question about your biggest aha moment. So there's also a question here, quite interesting actually. What was your least aha-like moment? Someone wants to know, as in, what was exactly how you expected it to be? Who wants to have a go on that? Nothing was as you expected. Everything was different? Or was it just something that you could cling on to, saying, okay, this is at least like I knew? Then I'm surprised if everything 100% seems very different.
In my case was something that I always appreciated when I started, because it was very challenging for me to get onboarded in my first position. But one thing that I was always grateful, and I still appreciate those people, were management, and my close managers were very supportive, and it showed that they were the right people at the right place. And although they could see that I'm struggling with the challenges of being onboarded in a new company, they were very helpful to help me to find my path in the company. And that's why it was very important to be open and share when you start a job with your closest manager about your challenges, about things you appreciate, about things you want to change, and they take it very seriously. And that was something that was very appreciated from my point of view.
Let's also to just have an inspiring round for you listening out there today from all over the world, just like all of you represented on stage from all over the world. Because we started off and you talked about, your just 1 minute introduction, your background, why you work here. But I guess all of you present here on stage could work anywhere in the world. I mean, you're free to pursue a career anyway. You did move from your origin country, so you could move again. So why Denmark? Let's start with you, Carlos.
In my case, I think it was Mir, actually. Like the main reason my original idea was to come here, do my master's, go back home, try to find a nice job. Then I got the internship and I thought, I'll get some experience on the internship. Then I'll move back to Spain. I'll get a better job with the internship. Then I got the full-time job. I was like, I'll get more experience with a full-time job, then I move back. And I've been saying that for the last 4 years. So I think I'm pretty much settled now. Because, I've always had a big interest in mobile robots, and the fact that I got into the world leader at the moment, that's definitely a thing. And then not only the company, also like all the conditions that you get in Denmark associated with the work-life balance and whatnot, that's also a big plus.
So now it's not totally wrong to say that you just might stay?
A lot of people ask me, like, are you going to stay in Denmark? I keep on telling them, I think I have stayed.
Yeah. So and it's difficult to say anything about the future. But it sounds like you could also consider staying more.
Yeah, definitely.
Deepak, why did you choose Denmark in the first place?
I really don't know. Before coming to the Denmark, I have zero knowledge of what is the Denmark. Once I came up here, I have so many challenges that I need to face.
But can I just ask you, Deepak, your impression of Denmark before getting here? I mean, what did you know? What did you expect?
Danes, they love rules mostly. But in some countries, they don't. They will just follow whatever they wanted to. But the Danes, they love the rules and whatever the things, the commune that they have established. And I really like that part. They are very strict about that. And they will be very helpful and very friendly. If I wanted to go somewhere which I don't know what the place, I can just ask the people who are walking around, and they are very helpful, and they have an open attitude. And coming to the work culture, I would say you have very independent life where you can work independently in the work. And it's okay to ask if you have any questions and direct contact to the managers and the colleagues as well. And the difference, I would say, the cultural difference where the Danes are straightforward. If they wanted to tell you something, they won't hesitate at all. And in the beginning, I was very afraid and hesitated to speak something which I wanted to get knowledge on some application or somewhat. So they were like, don't be like that. And they have called me into the meeting, and they have explained everything which I wanted to know. And that was really interesting and fun. And I don't want it to go back to India. It's a nice place, I would say. But regarding the work culture, it's a very best place to work.
So you're also considering staying, actually. Yeah. So when back in Iran, how did Denmark come up as the perfect place for you?
To be honest, the only thing I knew about Denmark before coming to this country was Niels Bohr and Peter Schmeichel.
You're good, two good people to know.
Yeah, and Danish pastry. And I asked people how is it there. They told me it's 6 months day and 6 months night. And I came with that attitude here, and I was like, all right, let's try it. And I knew it was an exchange that I might go back, and I decided to stay. And until the last 2-3 years ago, I was telling myself I would leave next year. But then 2-3 years ago, I just decided that, okay, maybe this is the place. I feel comfortable here. I feel respected. I feel I still have chance to develop in my current job, and there are so many opportunities for me. So, and I have been moving since I was a kid, and I was tired of that because of my parents' job. And then finally, I decided after living in 4 or 5 countries, maybe Denmark is a place to call home.
Okay, so now I'm curious, because if you've been moving all, just not that you have to name all the countries, so I just want to know you choose Denmark over countries like?
It was random country. I grew up in Austria, and when I was a teenager, I was living in Ethiopia for 3-4 years, and then I came to Denmark when I was 20. It was because of my father works for UN. So I had this international life of moving around so much, and I was at some point tired of it. And Denmark was a place that I felt, finally, it's a place I don't have to move, and I am independent from my parents. I don't have to move with them.
So you feel home now?
I feel home now. When I go back to my country, I lost a lot of friends. You know, they also moved around, and when I go, it's just my family. And after 2-3 weeks, I get bored and I miss my home in Denmark. So if the politicians allow me also, I would like to call this place my home.
Yeah, that's nice to hear.
Yeah,
Why did you choose Denmark?
Just to give a brief introduction, is my love for computer science and technology goes way back. I was actually a nightmare to my parents because I would break open all the toys just to see what's inside and how they work. But back in high school, I had to choose my path. Where would I go next and study computer science? And I was not happy with the university system back at home in Romania. So my choices were either England or Denmark. There was a rumor back then that Denmark has good universities and is pretty good for internationals. So I applied for a couple of universities in Denmark and a couple in England, and fortunately I got accepted in Aalborg.
Do you remember when you did the applications, if you had in mind, I actually want to go to England more than Denmark, or the opposite?
I did not know much about it.
You can be honest, it's okay.
No, not really. I think I did not know much about both sides. You know, I tried to handpick some of the universities that had some popularity beforehand. So I did not get accepted in England, but I got accepted in Denmark, so that's pretty good. Turned out to be great.
It turned out to be the right thing.
Yeah.
Dana, how come you thought that Denmark would be the right place for you?
Yeah, so to be honest, I came here to take a chance on a relationship, and it didn't work out. But while we were in it, it was just the reason to stay. It made sense practically. And when it didn't work out, I actually had to think about, do I want to stay? What happens now? And I gave myself a year to see what life would be like here. And aspects of Danish society, I realized became really important to me, aspects of the welfare state. And I feel like I've been able to grow here, and especially at work, I have an amazing opportunity here that has potential for growth, and I've also found a really nice way to have work in my life, not have it be defining me. I feel like working in Denmark, there's room to be a human and not just an employee, and that has become really valuable to me.
So your identity is not only your workplace, you have other stuff also.
I love how people talk about their families and celebrating events with cake all the time. It just feels like a team. Definitely staying for the cake.
Cake and coffee, yeah.
So in my case, when I was moving out of Poland after my bachelor, I had 2 goals. First of all, as a teenager, I also kind of moved around Europe a little bit. So getting to know people from other cultures was really exciting to me. And I wanted to kind of try that again. And then the second reason was I wanted to get a master's degree. And universities in Denmark are really good. And are also a lot more financially attainable compared to other universities in Europe, which is, of course, important when you're bachelor student that only had a part-time job for a couple of years. And yeah, after finishing the university, I stayed in shape. I've gotten that job as a part-time job as well when I was studying, and I really enjoy it. It's an exciting opportunity, and yeah.
Great. Just one specific question. I don't know. You can have a go. Any one of you can mark. It's someone asking, what is better to choose, a good part-time job in the industry, or to work harder for better grades in university? Someone wants to have a go on that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in my experience, it's definitely better to go for a part-time job, unless somebody is interested in doing a PhD, because in that case, grades and having really good grades and also a good grade for your master thesis really matters. But if your goal is to just finish a master's degree and then find your way into the industry, into the professional space, then having some experience really helps.
Right. And then just to have the final round, I'm thinking that if all your peers out there are inspired now, thinking, well, I might stay here as well. I didn't plan to do so, but I would like to do so. Okay, someone just turned up their sound in here, but now it's down again. It's just a little technical thing. I don't know if you heard it out there. We did. All good again. So what I was trying to say was, if all you out there got inspired, maybe are thinking now, I would like to do the same. I didn't plan to stay maybe, but now I'm considering it. Could we just take a last round then with your best piece of advice based on your own experience? Carlos.
Yeah, I would say try to get a bit out of your comfort zone when you start applying for jobs. I got to my dream job through a job I didn't really want to do. To start with, I was overqualified for my initial job, but that was my entry into the company. And knowing how Denmark works and how flat the hierarchy was, I knew I would have a chance to move into the job that I really wanted to do. So yeah, maybe try to get out of your comfort zone a little bit. Try something different. You might find the job you want that way.
Deepak?
I would say it is better to build your network how much possible you can. In current situation, we have many applications on many sites where you can build your network. I would say one of them is LinkedIn. You have to be up to date every time where you can go for the open opportunities and higher officials, and recruiters, they will see your profiles and your fit for the job. You might not get into touch with the job profile, but they will see you in LinkedIn or somewhere.
Is that the most important to create the network online, or could it also be, in actions?
In actions, that would be a better one.
Real world actions.
Yeah, that would be a better one where you can build your own network and talking to all the officials and the professionals in the different companies where you can build your own network and you can just have a chat and come around and see by.
And could you actually do that? I mean, if you just got, a random phone call, would you think, okay, that was...
Yeah, if it is something looks like interesting, where I can having a good opportunity to improve my skills, and if it is and the advantage of in their company where my skills can be put into the higher level, so that they can work along with the team and coordinate my skills to the company as well. That would be great.
I have to say I have to agree so much with Carlos on this, and you have to be ready to take risk and expect the unexpected. My career path was not as I imagined it, but I'm here. I was supposed to stay in this city and do my PhD, and suddenly things didn't work out because of funding issues, and then I started in a company that in the beginning was not my dream job, was not actually the job that I really wanted. It took me 3 years to start doing something that I love to do. And if time goes back, I will do the same thing again. And I will take the risk and let life decide it for me.
But during those 3 years, maybe especially in the beginning of the 3 years, were your mindset as optimistic as now when you look back at it?
It was, because I knew I'm working in a big company that offers a lot of chance for self-development. And that's why I took it. If it was another company, I probably wouldn't have. But I knew the company that I work, it's big enough that I can maybe at some point bring some ideas there And it happened, but it took some time. I was very patient. But I'm so glad that now it happened, and I keep telling that to people, that don't be so restrict about your first position, especially if you're moving abroad. Opportunities will come, and you just suddenly have to grab it.
Yeah, so from my perspective, the key to a happy and successful life in Denmark as an international, there are two pathways for this. Basically, one is career, where if you're passionate about what you do and you love what you do, then you will most likely have success. The other pathway is social life, and more often than not, from what I hear from my international friends and people I know, that's the main issue for people wanting to go back home.
It's the social part of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
so what should
so
all the listeners and viewers here do on that path?
This might come weird from me, not knowing Danish, and I'm not a person who easily engages into conversations. But luckily for me, I have a group of people that are also internationals, and my sister is here, my girlfriend is here, so I kind of relate to them. So it's kind of easier for me. But if you don't have these people, then try to learn Danish.
Yeah.
And I think my goal for at least for the next year or the next couple of years is to do that. So
when we meet next year, we'll do
hopefully,
this in Danish.
Hopefully, yeah.
Okay, Dana.
Yeah, I would also say be open-minded and be patient. I started as an English major. I wanted to write books. And this role as a deep learning engineer didn't even exist when I was studying. So you never know what is going to happen. Things are developing quite quickly. So be ready for anything. And also, being international is a strength. You have a wealth of different experiences that have led to different perspectives that are really valuable. And it's becoming more and more critical to have diversity represented in areas like new technology. So you should definitely play it up as an advantage during your recruitment process.
Thank you.
I don't think I can add anything new that wasn't already said. But yeah, patience is really important, because finding a job is just constant work, and you never really see the benefit until you actually get that job. So it does require some self-discipline and some patience. And then when it comes to the social life, that can be also difficult if you don't know Danish, but learning the language and then also making the effort to actually spend time with Danes and try to understand them, that definitely helps.
Thank you so much, all of you, for sharing your experiences. And thank you, all of you, of course, for putting the good questions on Slido. We will now have a short break. During this break, you can also watch a video about the city we're in right now, Odense, and the robotics cluster here. And then we'll be back in around 5 minutes with another panel session here. Then it will be all the executives. So you should hang out for that, and also put your questions to the people that are going to hire you. So see you soon.
Yeah.
Robots are changing our world. They're revolutionizing the way we collaborate, the way we think, the way we work, and the way we create. Robots are helping people work smarter and businesses grow stronger. So imagine a place where robotics companies are collaborating instead of competing, where the ecosystem is capable of commercializing startups and new technologies, where you will find an international test center for drones, and where the university is so good it won the unofficial world championship in robotics. That place is the Danish city of Odense. Maybe you've heard of something called universal robots.
We wanted to make a robot that is more like a tool that helps people do their work, more than this big machine behind the fence that steals people's jobs.
The team created what today is known as collaborative robots, or cobots. In 2015, everything changed. Universal Robots was acquired for $285 million.
It actually opened the eyes for the world at large.
Everybody will start talking about the future is collaborative robots.
Prior to UR, there was a lot of talk about all the things that never worked in Odense, and now people, they talk about all the things that are possible.
So everybody suddenly realized there's something special going on in Odense.
And this was only the beginning, because it wasn't just universal robots.
There's a whole string of equally great companies in the making. Companies that are also growing at phenomenal rates of more than 50% a year.
Ranging from startups to large corporations, Odense now houses dozens of robotics companies and a total of several thousand employees.
I have not seen any denser cluster of robot technology anywhere else. We have the university with the world-class research. We have Technological Institute, which brings technology out to the industries. And then we have the local government, who's all for robotics and all for robots.
People see each other as colleagues more than competitors.
Companies are building their own business on other companies also.
And they need each other. So they exchange information, they even exchange people.
We have some extremely exciting jobs here that you cannot find in other cities.
The limiting factor on high-tech industries is usually talent. And talent is attracted by talent. And the critical mass of talent is in Odense.
There's a huge interest in investing in Odense now.
And it's been a lot easier for the startups to raise funding.
When you come out and say that you are part of the Odense robot cluster, you get an ear with the customers.
But Odense needs more. It needs you.
We are already one of the leading cities in the world, but I think that Odense as a robotics city can grow even further.
It's probably one of the best places in the world to start building robot businesses, and that's why Odense has become, you can say, a rising star in the robot scene in the world.
If you are able to succeed in robotics, then it's here.
So, hi everyone again. Hope you had a nice little break here. Time to just stretch your legs, grab a cup of coffee, get ready for the next session here on stage. And as you have seen, we have a new team on stage now. And so now it's all the executives from some of the present companies here today. And you can get a unique look into the environment, the work environment on this specific robotics and tech era as seen from Danish leaders. So a great pleasure to see you all here on stage. And just like I did before, let's start with just a short round of introduction.
Yeah, so my name is Anders Billesø-Bæk. I'm head of innovation at UR, so I represent the department at Universal Robots that are responsible for new technology and new concepts and new things for the Universal Robots family.
Thank you.
Yes, my name is Ole. I'm from Novo Nordisk. And very briefly on myself, I've been working with the company for 10 years and I'm highly involved in rollout of digitalization and new technology in our production areas. So also very short about Novo Nordisk, a 100-year-old company, not necessarily something you combine with high tech, but we are supporting people, about 30 million people on a daily basis around the world, 170 countries, and are manufacturing half the insulin in the world, which basically means that we are sending out billions of products, which basically means we have a very high manufacturing capability. And that requires renewal, and that's also why we're looking for talent. So that's my purpose of being here today.
I'm Jørgen Andersen. I'm heading up HR in Ambu, that is a medical device company producing single-use instrument. And we have been in the market for around 80 years. And we have grown steady for the first, I would say, 75 years. And then we are right now in a major growth journey. And to illustrate that, we just this year hired more than 1,000 people. So it gives a perspective about that we really are in a growth adventure. And not only have we hired 1,000 people, also a lot of young people and diverse people, because that's kind of the whole idea of that we will bring a lot of diversity to the table in that.
My name is Michael. I have a hard time pronouncing my last name because in English it sounds strange because it's slot. Sorry for that. Now I missed the point.
We'll call you Michael today.
Okay, thanks a lot. We all be pretty unpolite just saying my last name, but I'm the Cio of Esoft, a local company that is basically founded here in Odense, but has facilities all over the world. Basically, we are like 850 people in total. I'm leading transformation of Esoft. Esoft into being more tech. We basically come out of the production world, more or less, creating inventory for houses, real estate throughout the whole world, where we take photos, we edit photos, we enhance photos, we deliver photos, we do whatever, but it's kind of in a production fashion. So we want to drive even further into doing it more tech-driven. I've been at Esoft for almost 3 years. Started in 2018. We are 50 people in tech, spanning from Poland to Denmark, here in Odense, and to Hanoi, Vietnam.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, so my name is Søren Ulrikkeholm. I'm Director of Operations at Shape. For those of you who don't know Shape, we make basically software solutions for many different companies all over the world. Primarily in the form of mobile applications. So we work a lot with companies on automation, improvement of work processes, and generally improving customer experience. We are 120 people based in Copenhagen, and we have a lot of international people working with us. I think we're in the same race for talent that a lot of the tech companies that are here today are in as well, and I think one of the things that we've had a great success with is to try to just hire a lot of people from all over the world, both because it allows us to find the best technical skills, but also because it brings a lot of value to us to have a very diverse team and to have people and experiences from all over the world.
Thank you very much, all of you. So could we just start with a round talking about how new trends, new digital tools, what they actually very specifically mean for your company. I don't know who wants to start. Yeah, you can start again.
Yeah,
you had the word. Take it again.
No, but I mean, for a company like us, where I think one of the most important things for us is to provide value for the companies that we're working with, and to be able to do that, it's really important to stay at the front of the technology wave. A lot of the things that sort of move from the front to the back of that wave are commoditized in one way or another, and I think as soon as you become a commodity, then you no longer bring a lot of value to the companies that you work with. And I think that's one of the most important things for us as a company, to stay relevant in terms of technology and keep pushing the boundary and bringing some of that knowledge into the companies that we work with.
Yeah, so in our company, I would say that we right now are providing camera technology to go inside the body, and not only camera technology, but also artificial intelligence, and that technology is keep developing. And I think for us to keep up with that and make sure that we continuously is able to put as much digitalization and technology into a very, very tiny instrument that can go into the body, and after that being thrown away. That is I think that takes a lot of effort for all our talented people.
And can you tell a bit more about that, Jan? I mean, what specifically are you working on?
We are working right now on putting artificial intelligence into the instrument. So when we put in a camera into the body, we can also, when the doctor looks for what he's actually going to look for, the technology will also tell him what also to look for. So we actually get even more data out of that surgery we are into, and making hopefully the patient even better. And we may also be able to detect something that the doctor was not necessarily thought he should find.
And for you, Anders, what would be like the biggest trends right now, seen from your perspective?
So the general field of robotics is huge, right? And it's really an evolving space at the moment, growing with, and a lot of it is also having commercial impact. I think you can also say that the robotics space is probably the space in the world where there's most uncommercialized technology available on the shelves at the moment. So I think what's really starting to roll now is sort of finding the holes where actually getting technologies that is even 10 years old can get access to the market. And there's a lot of new trends around artificial intelligence in terms of usability and so on that can actually make those sort of breakthroughs, like I think Esben presented it pretty well, that is one of the things that Universal Robot has brought to the market, to have broken through with some technologies, brought it available to the market. And I think in the robotics fields, there's a lot of research and work and development still needed to make new technology useful, but of course also to sort of keep innovating, making sure that the things that already gets commoditized, so where are the next steps, but also making sure that it really works for the people, for the users that we have.
And you could say, if you look at it from the outside, that you represent a business that disrupt other fields of business. But are you also, I mean, could you also be disrupted by someone, by something?
Naturally. I think the whole commoditization is absolutely true, right? I mean, in looking 4 or 5 years back, Universal Robots was sort of the most established or the only established collaborative robots. Now we're talking 50 plus competitors that does pretty much along the same lines as we do. So of course we need to keep innovating. We need to make sure that we stay in front and do the right things, and also taking the next steps to make sure that we get manufacturing technology, we get robotics even closer to people where they work today.
And from which sources could you say that a company like Novo could be challenged by disruption?
It's a
big question.
I think we're basically seeing new technology in 3 areas. On a product level, where we are seeing digital health, and there we have new competitors entering the field with solutions that can make, you can say, lesser ideal drugs become more effective by augmenting it with digital knowledge. And that's, of course, a field we are also engaging in. Then in our research and development area, discovering new drugs is a cumbersome business, and we have thousands and thousands of drug candidates to find just one. By use of artificial intelligence, we can make that even faster. Other companies can make use of that as well. And then in our production environment, we have highly automated equipment today, but all the surrounding processes are to a large extent manual, and automating those can make us better. And definitely also we can get much more out of our already installed equipment by putting manufacturing intelligence or machine learning on top of it, because that makes it much, much better. And of course, these can challenge us, but they can definitely also make us leverage our ability to provide affordable products to a larger part of the world.
And from your perspective, Michael, where do you see the biggest challenge in terms of disruption on your field in Esoft?
It's actually a big thing, because in real estate, it's probably the only industry that not get disrupted yet. So a lot of stuff will happen on that scene, and since we are producing material for the realtors, I don't see us getting disrupted on that scene. But
they could be disrupted,
exactly,
because they've been working.
Yeah, and that's
very
actually what we see.
Yeah.
Because basically our customers is throughout the globe, and what will initially happen on the realtor side, because they're actually getting sliced more and more thin. What are they actually providing to the market? What will end? Will it be the photographer company, or will it be the seller himself that sells the apartment driven by technology? We don't know, but at least we don't see us hit on that scene, because we basically still have to produce material and enhance it. On the other side, we have a kind of production part also at Esoft, pretty much linked into what Esben just said, that inspired is that what we basically do, in the beginning when we started doing AI and deep learning in our productions, in the R&D team, was more or less cutting cost, removing editors, removing people, so to speak, but actually we found out that it can actually be an empowerment. So we can actually empower the editors, all the photographers, all the realtors. And that's how I see it, the system 1, system 2 kind of approach. So disruption is pretty diverse in our scene, but definitely the realtors will to some extent get disrupted, not tomorrow, not the day after, but next year perhaps.
Yeah. So the new technologies, how have they affected the way that you organize your business?
I think we're still a fairly young company, so I think we've probably been
You've been brought up with the opportunity.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that's what we're trying to utilize, right? And I think probably some of the next things that we will see is it's also a topic that's been coming up a lot today, but how you go from sort of trying to have this man versus technology or man or technology type of mentality to sort of how can we enhance and empower sort of human existence with the things that we're building now, and also how can we bring a little bit of humanity into technology. So I think also
what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, something like we're seeing now that's becoming very relevant is like, how do you deal with remote work or people being hybrid between being at an office or being remote? And there's one side of that mentality where you say it's fine, we're all writing code, and that you can do that from home, and it's the same as you would be in the office. And I think that's sort of the man or technology mentality. And I think what we're also seeing is that it takes a lot out of the human experience when you're just sitting in front of the computer all the time. But there's still a need for technology to bridge that gap between physical presence and just sitting in front of a computer. And how do you bring technology into that? Or how do you change technology so that it can provide human interaction in a meaningful way, different from what we're seeing now? I don't think there's a lot of examples of how to do that right now, but I think it's something that we'll see that needs to be solved somehow very soon.
Jørgen, as the only, I guess, representative here from the HR department, I have to say that all of you out there, and it's really understandable, ask a lot of questions about, applications, what are you looking for, skills versus grades, all those. So I have to just ask you some of them here, and actually I can put them together because they basically ask the same thing. One here is, so what kind of employees are you looking for in terms of education as well as personal skills? And other people also focus on the thing about the personal skills. I mean, could you also have a total different background and then enter the tech era?
Yeah, first of all, I would say we of course we look for engineers. We are in the mechanics, we are in the software. So of course that is some of the key competences. But I really think that what we look for is people with the right mindset, saying, "What if?" Right? It's kind of wondering why, and imagine how, and imagine why. So kind of that part and those questions for us is much more essential. We of course will welcome from the engineering background, but the mindset for us, the values in our company, that you kind of tap into the values, is for us even more important actually.
Could we just take a round on, because there's also a question saying, what value do internationals bring that you typically don't get when hiring a Dane? And of course that's kind of very specific, but maybe we could just focus on what values you do get when, because you're all talking about diversity and that you hire internationally, but what values are important when doing that?
So from our side, I think the values of what we hire is actually very broad and very much along the same lines as you had, Jørgen. That for a good employee, it's definitely good to have the good grades to come in and actually be able to show some capabilities. But it's also important to have a good insight into what the mindset is actually about. What is this person thinking about? And from a sort of a technology leadership point of view, it's definitely more important to see the result of a good project, to see that this student has been able to both take a high level of technological or sort of career-wise insight and transform that to very good decisions. Because in the end, even developers make decisions every day that really affect the products that come out. And we want to make sure that we don't only have employees that are good at solving equations, but also can transform that into really good product decisions. And that's really a skill that's important to develop, and I think you as students can do a lot of good decisions in your path to make sure that you also grow those kind of skills. And
what could that be? Yeah.
I mean, it could be along having good jobs along the way, but even getting into the first student-employee job, what we look for is seeing examples of students doing good projects where there was not only high level of technology involved, but also some good decision-making and actually answering some difficult questions, not only from a technical side, but also doing the right things from a conceptual side. And also think the diversity that we have, we at Universal Robots have a lot of diversity in our development teams and in our production teams and so on. And we value that very much. We are in a global market, so having global insight is very important. I also think, I mean, building the network, we had that in the previous group, something like the robotics, and I think that actually applies to most of the tech domains. It's not that enormous a field. And even in the panel that we had up here today, I've worked with, as student employees, with half of them already, right? So knowing them and also going through the journey that people go through in their careers, you will be meeting some of the same people. So make sure that you make the right decisions, that you actually create the right connections as you go through, because you're most likely going to meet the same ones again, maybe in a higher level position, maybe abroad, maybe at some point. But make sure that you make these decisions and build yourself as persons as well, and show that you can make these kind of decisions.
So from your perspective, Ole, what do international employees bring to Novo that you wouldn't get from a local employee?
Yeah, first and foremost, of course, we get diversity, and we get a significantly broader field of applicants if we just look outside Denmark. Denmark is a fairly small country. If we look at China, they have more PhDs than we have people in Denmark. So there is a lot of knowledge out there. And if we want to be the leading company in our industry, then we need to work with leading people. And they don't necessarily all come from Denmark. So we have to get outside help in this. And of course, we are in a good position with a company. We have development R&D sites, 10 of them across 5 countries around the world. We have production in 20 countries, or in 10 countries, 20 sites around the world. So we have a good inflow of possibilities there. And we do see a lot of people also coming to Denmark. We have roughly 40% of our people in Denmark, and getting the talent from around the world here is vital for us to get the know-how. And then, of course, talking to the skill set, of course, we need to have people that are technologically savvy. They need to know something about digital robotics and so forth, but they also have to be curious. They also have to be good at networking and collaborating with people around the company. In an organization of our size, you only get results if you can hook up with the right people to work with. And you need to be able to find those in the organization. The informal networks are significantly more powerful than the formal ones, also in our company. So.
You did actually answer some of it before. I don't know if you have anything also to add to this about the international point of view.
Yeah, for us, what I can see is that some of these international students, they have been competing at their student facilities, maybe much more than the Danes have in their student facilities. And that competitive edge, that when they bring that in, and in combination with us, I think that truly gives us an advantage. So for us to take those students in, they bring, I would say, tremendous competing edge, which we really need in order to stay in the forefront.
Michael?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I've been probably in the last 15 years hiring internationals, bringing actually someone to Denmark over the years. And usually when I have actually kids at the same age as you, probably, and what I sense in them, they are too spoiled. Often they just get too spoiled. They get everything served on the plate. You guys come in with the creativity, some kicks the door in. Basically, that's what I expect you to do. Compared to much of the Danish students, much of the Danes, they're too much lean back sometimes. At least my kids are. So come in, kick us in. It gives me the goosebumps when I meet people that actually can enforce a new way of thinking. We talk a lot about diversity. It's kind of the thing we are always mentioning beside AI. But what is actually on top or below diversity, that's psychological safety. That's one of the things that we can provide here in Denmark, I think, without painting the picture too bright. But I think we can, the way we do management, the way we actually do people management. So, yeah, come kick our door.
Yeah, I think I'll try not to say the word diversity, but I agree with a lot of the things that have been said. I think it's very obvious that having an international workforce is a huge benefit. I think maybe for a company like ours, who's still fairly young, I think like getting a global element into your DNA is something that's really beneficial and able to be able to also go out in the world. And if we have client meetings with people in the US or wherever, it's not really strange because it's really just part of our everyday life that we're part of a global community.
So on one topic, you definitely agree, all of you here. Diversity is really important, and now we just had this roundabout diversity from a global point of view. So it would be relevant, I guess, to ask you, also when you just look at stage here, what about women in tech? Any comments on that? Someone is also asking on slide.
I have
you go first.
I have a lot of comments on that because it's
bring them on.
It's something that I would really love to fix, and it's something that there's no real quick fix to. Because if I look at my inbox, I have maybe 100 applications per month, and maybe there's one female among them. So
one among the 100 would be
female.
From a female, yeah.
And I think that's also like the archetype of a tech geek. You see a guy sitting in a basement with pimples and so on, and that's definitely it's both an image that you have to change, but it's also the pipeline going all the way from school to high school to universities. I think that's something that we in Denmark need to work on. I'm seeing it a lot if you go to Eastern Europe or Brazil, we see a lot more diversity, like gender diversity within the tech communities. I think we are lagging a lot behind in Denmark on that, and I see a lot of different initiatives going on within that. It seems like everyone believes that if you just change the name of computer science and call it something more fluffy, then all females will just stream in. But I think there probably needs to be done something more.
So, any suggestions here on what you could actively do to change your challenges on gender equality in your Ole?
Yeah, I think it's important that we do something, and I think in Novo Nordisk, especially when we talk about IT and data, we are very successful in onboarding women, both on the lower levels, entry levels, and also in managerial positions. We've just started up a unit within my area, within what we call manufacturing intelligence, a lot of data scientists in there, and that's 50-50, male, female. So it is definitely possible to get them, but sometimes you have to tweak your applications. We can see the same application just written slightly differently will attract a completely different audience to apply for it. So we need to be alert on what we call things, I totally agree. And then we need to focus on how we write it. Then we will get them.
Yeah.
And I agree. In Universal Robots, we also have very good success in growing also the sort of gender balance in our teams, and also really see the benefit of having this. So I agree with the challenges, of course, that depending on the positions, then the field does have a male tendency, right? But we also do look for new employees creating good balance in the teams, and we're actually seeing having a good gender balance in the team, even in some of the more classical male disciplines, really is a good thing for the team. So we also use that actively to create higher performing teams by having good gender balance.
I think we have also really, for the last year or 2 years back, we have really emphasized also to kind of change the story about that there is no female people within engineering, and kind of every time a manager comes up with that, we say, well, is that really true? So HR plays a tremendous role together with the manager saying, well, let's change that narrative. It's not true anymore. There's a lot of great female candidates, and we just need to find them. And I agree with you. It's all about sometimes tweaking the job ad in order to make them, and then make sure that when you hire them, that you create great environment also there. So we don't want female men into the job. We want female into the job, right? So that's kind of the whole idea.
Søren, I think you mentioned it before about working from home, and I guess that, I mean, in some of your fields anyway, you've been coping with working from lots of different places also around the world, maybe for a longer time than the rest of us. For some people, it's really a new thing, just staying home, working from home. We've all been coping with different ways of working during the pandemic. Quite a lot of questions are focusing on topics around that. One is asking, how do you think the future workplace will look like? And one is asking, what are your thoughts on working remotely? Is this becoming the norm? So I think maybe you could elaborate a bit on that, Ole?
Yeah, I think definitely the COVID-19 has taught us a lot and have accelerated a lot of experiences in working in a virtual environment. For us, it is something that we have been trying to do a long time because we have factories around the world and so forth, and it's good to be there and avoid traveling is important, not only the CO2, but also the time you spend actually going back and forth. So having a virtual presence is very important for us. And we also have employees that are working in Denmark but living abroad, and then basically just hooking up virtually and participating in the work. And this has become significantly easier now when we are all getting accustomed to working behind the screen, whether it's in the office or at home or somewhere else.
So do you think when all this hopefully at some time is over, do you think that you will begin to work in a new way because you were forced to do it?
I think we will continue working in this way. Of course, bringing people together also can do something that you cannot do virtually. So we will have a mix of these two, but yes, to a much larger extent, will we do this? I mean, even going to a production shop floor using, for instance, HoloLens or something like that is happening today. We would not necessarily have done that had we not been told. It would have taken longer time. Now we're doing it on a daily basis, and it actually works pretty well.
What are your thoughts on that, Anders?
Yeah, I fully agree. I think the COVID have really been an accelerant actually for the digital transformation. I think Esben said it pretty well that Industry 4.0 just moved 5 years ahead because of the COVID. So there's a lot of things that has changed. I mean, we have also learned that working in these conditions works pretty well, and maybe physical presence could be used in other ways that we've actually done it now. So maybe actually meetings works okay virtually because it spans much better globally. So maybe you don't need to go to work for a meeting of 10 people, but maybe you need to go to work work closer with people. So I think we need to sort of redefine what role does physical interaction between people play, and what roles does virtual interaction with people play. But it's definitely been a great accelerant also for having much better global collaborations. We also have development teams in the US and so on. And in these days, it doesn't really matter, except for the time zones where people actually are. So I think it's been a big change in how we're going to work, both today and in the future.
Do you also think it would affect the process of hiring, or the process of how you... I mean, how should I put it? Which profiles you're looking for, also when we talk about social skills?
Definitely. I mean, but nevertheless, it's still the cultural part is still important in the day-to-day work, and it's still important to have people that fit in and do the right things. And of course, that becomes in this sort of remote collaboration more difficult to manage. So I think we need to learn ourselves new tools about how do we embed sort of corporate culture and sort of the cultural mindset into our people if we are starting to onboard in a more diverse and global way.
Yep. Anything else to comment on this field? Future workspace?
Yeah, perhaps.
Is it a new norm?
I think it is. It is. I think we'll probably end up splitting the week into 2 days at home, 3 days at home, whatever. And that's created by COVID, for sure. But I'm a huge fan of meeting people at the whiteboard and discussing stuff and so forth, and that's actually hard to facilitate on a distance. I have a huge team in Hanoi, and we just sit on these cameras day in, day out, and also before COVID, and I definitely hate it. But it worked for some things when you're delivering information back and forth, but when you're collaborating and you really want to hit the roof, you have to meet up. At least that's my perception of it. But it's also, when we do a lot of designing of digital products where you have to meet different people with diversity and all kinds of people, lots of females. But something is different. When I look into my R&D department, that were office in the spring, and they actually did much better than if they were in the office. So they actually got the room for actually doing stuff. So that was amazing, but it's not either home, either in office. It's kind of a both thing.
And have someone is asking also, have your hiring needs been affected by COVID?
Absolutely.
How?
It's definitely fired off our focus for the future, being more digital, and actually empowered our developing our digital products even further, and also kind of something also the tensions kind of moved away when it got COVID. Everyone got frustrated and running around in circles. So that was actually a huge possibility of actually hitting it, doing something differently. So definitely, yeah.
Yeah, and for us, producing single-use instruments that goes inside the body and up against multiple-use instrument that just has to be cleaned. Imagine COVID here, that you kind of can rest assured that you have a completely untouched clean instrument, whereas the other is, with all respect, just cleaned. That has given us a huge advantage right now.
So also, I think something that we also discussed on stage before with the talents that chose to stay and pursue a career here is the language. Also, it's Lisa asking, hi Lisa, how important is Danish? Who wants to have a go? Yeah, Anders.
Yes, in the daily work life in Universal Robots, Danish is not really important. I mean, it's actually more common to speak English in a meeting than, I would say, 9 out of 10 meetings does happen in English anyway. So I actually think for the daily work life, the language, the proper spoken English language is significantly more important. Yeah. And that could also be a challenge sometimes than Danish language.
Yeah.
I really agree with the students that then I see the Danish language being really important for the social part outside of the work. Right. And we also do think a bit about that, right? So
what do you do in that area?
I mean, we definitely motivate for the Danish lessons. We definitely motivate. We create sort of teams and groups also of our diverse employees to also sort of have the talks about how to work and how to also have the social life outside of out of the teams, because in the end, if the social part of being a person in Denmark doesn't really work, then of course the employment will be shorter term for us in the end as well, right? So we are really interested in also making sure that our international employees have a good social life outside their work as well.
Yeah, I can only echo that. You can easily get by with English in the work life, and also the social side that goes with the work. But it's when you're getting home that you will need it, or to some extent. Of course, you can always get by with English in Denmark, but it's in order to interact. Then it's a nice add-on to have, I think.
For us, the same, but I think we encourage very much to the small talks around the coffee machine, the lunch breaks, that you kind of rehearse your Danish. I think that kind of will enable you. All our meetings, everything in the professional part, of course, conducted in English. We are international. But I think all the tiny, small pauses, we encourage everyone that try it out. It's not dangerous.
Anything else to add on the language
topic? I totally agree with the rest of you, but perhaps one thing to add, since we're here in Odense, let's promote Odense a little bit. We have got something here in Odense called the International Community, Odense, ico.odense.dk, and they're doing a marvelous work in terms of integrating people, making events and doing that, and also incorporating the companies. So huge work they're doing, all respect.
We did focus a bit on it, but I would like also to ask a question again, because it's interesting, because now we have been focusing on your own path of working, the technology, robotics and tech era. So someone is asking here, what do you think would be the next step in the tech and robotics area when you just focus on the way you work, not only for the customer's point of view, but for the workforce that you work with every day? Who wants to go first? Yeah, Ole?
The whole digitalization of our you can say, our workforce in many ways will accelerate how things are progressing. So we are a fairly old company and have been used to working in certain ways to keep a very low tolerance to failure. And now we are starting to move in digital ways, which means that we can do things significantly faster. And now we have to find ways of combining low tolerance for having products going to the patients that fail and still being able to move very fast. So the whole way of working agile is changing dramatically in our company. Of course, there are still things in drug discovery and maturing them that is cumbersome, and you have to go through elaborate studies with humans, as we are seeing with the COVID vaccines right now. But then you also have to do things that can go fast. And we have to mix these two things in a completely new way. So it is opening up a whole new work experience where agile is a new buzzword across areas where we wouldn't expect it.
Could you give an example?
Yes, I mean, when we are doing installing a robot, for instance, it does not take a long time to do it. It is not something that necessarily needs a lot of validation work and needs to be proven, because it just replaces a person doing certain things. And that can be done more or less overnight, and we can get moving. So it's a completely different way of doing it rather than the traditional way. And that means change is significantly more rapid in our environment.
And in some way, it's a kind of strange question for you, because I guess that's what you work with and have been working with for several years. But still, I mean, how do you, in your business, cope with this?
No, but I think we have the same challenge, right? And also, Universal Robot is becoming a mature company, so we have not maybe necessarily the same zero failure tolerances, but we are getting there, right? Because we also have companies working with companies like you that actually expect high quality products. We want to make sure we deliver high quality products, and at the same time remains on top of our game and keeps being innovative and so on. And that really also challenges us of also using digital means to combine that.
So what would be the new thing, the totally new thing within the next couple of years for your company?
Well, it will be working much more on the digital platforms as well, also making sure that we can really sort of reach our customers faster. We can actually leverage the whole digital world of how we get to customers. The challenge today is we can have a salesperson driving 3 hours in the American Midwest to sell a robot, and he might drive back empty-handed, right? So it's pretty much the same challenge as we have in the daily work of R&D, where we have teams in China and so on. We cannot be flying around. We cannot spend our time behind the windshield of cars and so on to really get our business done. And of course, that's also going to change how we think about doing business. It's also going to change how we digitalize experience, right? Because experience in these fields are also a scarce resource. There are just not enough robot experts that can deploy robots on the factory floors that we can have one in every company deploying all the potential that we have in the world. So we need to figure out, how do we digitalize experience, and how do we make it scalable in a way that also the whole industry can scale. And of course, that would change also how our engineers need to think, how tools can be digitalized.
Yeah, Søren, yeah.
Yeah, so I think also one thing we'll see is sort of a mix or merge of the real physical world and technology. And of course, that's very obvious in terms of robotics that can enhance like the physical world and how we work. But also software will try or begin, I think, to sort of infiltrate everything that we do in the form of augmented reality. It can be using your smartphone or whatever glasses will be presented at some time. But I think it's something we're already working with. We're working with Novo Nordisk, for example, to see how can their technicians, the work that they do, how can that be improved if you can use augmented reality to sort of provide extra information into the physical world that you're seeing. And I think that's going to be a big thing that you'll see coming.
Yeah, yeah. The next big thing for you, Michael, in terms of the workforce and new, we talked about disruption. Now I just mean just new, really, I don't know the English word for it, but I guess I mean, from your field, what would be the new thing?
Against working, it's hard. I would rather swap it into something else, which is more or less up against our customers, because one of the things we came up with during this pandemic situation where we sat at home, working from home, is also, since we're in real estate, and as you know, people have to come visit houses, even in Corona times. That's a hard thing, actually. So we're bright minds, so we came up, what about virtual showing? How can we perhaps build a platform where you interact with a system, where you can exploit all the data that is harvested during that listing, and kind of get further down the sales funnel without actually meeting the house? And a positive side of that is, of course, I'm going to sell my house soon, but imagine me cleaning the house, bringing out kids and dogs and everything every day in, day out, and some vague leads come in, look at the house and just want to see it, not really want to buy it. The more you move them down the funnel, you actually remove some friction in the industry, in the business. But again, it's more of showing data, whether it's AR, VR, I don't care. And another thing is, I would again like to put the human in the loop. I'm a mentor of a talent program at SGU, and I actually gave that as a warm-up task for the students, and they came up, of course, they're basically young like you, came up, I said no technical equipment has to be brought in, the human factor. And they came with AR, VR, and all that jazz, and it was marvelous. But they missed the human part. What about asking the neighbor? What about asking the actual seller? You kind of get the feeling, the sense of the individual selling his house, because it's more like feelings. It's more like really feeling the house, not feeling a realtor or some VR equipment, but more or less feeling the surroundings and stuff. That's something that came up during this pandemic for us, and something we will definitely develop further in the coming days, years, months.
Yeah. So maybe we should just have the final words with a short round again. And I'm thinking, since all of you out there maybe did talk to some of the companies yesterday at the matchmaking sessions, but of course not all of you that are present right now, or at least 5 of you on stage here today. Let's just here at the end have a short round where you just, in a minute or a small minute, just can tell all the talents out there your best piece of advice from your perspective, from your company, to pursue a career with you, in terms of what mindset you're looking for, in terms of if you just, write an application. Let's go with you first, Anders.
Yeah, so I think my piece of advice is really to make sure that you put yourself in the best right positions and you do very conscious decisions when you go through your career. And that's not only making sure that you educate yourself to a very high sort of competence level in your field, that's definitely also important, but also make decisions on how you actually want to apply that knowledge. So if you can prove that you've done projects, if you can actually have some employment where also you will start building a network. And building a network is not just about contacting a lot of people and trying to explain them how great you are. You also need to be able to sort of prove that you actually are great. So make sure you make conscious choices, but also show what you can do, because that will impress people. And if it's not a person that you would need to have impressed today, then maybe 10 years later you will figure out there was a very good decision to impress this person. So make sure that you work on your network, but also work on your network in terms of your capabilities and your expertise and your skills, and show to our future, to us as potential future employers, that you're actually capable of transferring your very high technical skills into really good technical insights and decisions and projects.
Thank you. Ole?
Yeah, I can basically echo that. Of course, it's important to have as much network as possible. It is what makes many things happen. And of course also applying when there is an opening somewhere. And as was also mentioned by the earlier group, try to find the name of someone, talk to a person. It makes things a lot easier. And of course what it is you want to be selling is yourself. It's the curiosity you have, it's the new tech, it's potential diversity for the company, and especially people like you, these are important for us. And how do you get interesting for us to look at? And that is, for instance, by being at something like this. And we recruit quite a lot of people through working together with universities, and at sessions like this, getting to know people, getting some links into the organization in both directions. So be active and sell yourself.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's all about you stay curious, right? And you truly evaluate the company you are about to join, that they really want to kind of flourish your competences in order for you to get them to be brought into play and not being asked to stay low and stay calm, but you can really make an impact. And I think also to take your knowledge and be able to transform it into execution, so we actually get a progress. I think that is what we are looking for. We look for people that is curious, we look for people that is agile, we look for people that really want to be a part of a transformation journey. Those types of things is really key, essential for us. And I think your school background, of course, also super important and relevant. But again, like we started the whole session here, it's all about the mindset. And I think so. Please evaluate who you're gonna join. I think that's my advice.
I can't add much to it. I'm totally agree with most of it, or all of it. One thing I though would like to add is it's a two-way street. It's not us up against you, but it's also you up against us, or the other way around, because it's not a sales situation. It's more like, what can you bring to, but what can we bring to you? So it's ask questions and expect us also to be on our toes in the dialogue and be creative. That's basically what I would like to bring in.
Yeah, Søren?
Yeah, from my point of view, I think that the two most important things that you can do is to build some experience. And that can be by working on your own projects on the side or by somehow getting a student job somewhere. I think so. The things that we look for is that you show and demonstrate a passion for what you're doing, and building in some experience on the side is really a great way of showing that. And for us, I don't think I've ever looked at someone's grades from university, so I couldn't care less about that. And I think that's an important thing to remember, that is about showing that you're passionate about this thing and that you have some experience that you can demonstrate. And the other thing is, I think it was mentioned by the students as well, is that it's really important to convey the type of person that you are. So don't just send a resume saying that I've done this and this and this, but just send a little bit of text telling me about what kind of person are you and why do you think Shape is an interesting place and what's interesting about you. So I think showing a passion and showing that you're a real person and not just a sheet of paper, I think are two really important things for us.
Thank you so much. Very specific piece of advice here. That's really nice. And I hope also that, of course, it was useful for you out there. Thanks so much for sharing your experiences here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So while the gentlemen leave stage now, I can say that we're actually now at approaching the end of this 2 days event. And this event and this conference this year in the virtual way was all possible thanks to Technology Denmark, Odense Robotics and Copenhagen Capacity. So now I want to give the word to the CEO of Technology Denmark, Mette Bech Nielsen.
Yeah, I am Mette Bech Nielsen from Technology Denmark, and I have the pleasure of doing the round up, the final words for this conference. I'd like to start by saying thank you to all the companies and the young professionals who've joined today. It's been very inspiring. I think it's been deep and great discussions about the future and of tech and robotics. So thank you very much for that. In Denmark, we often talk a lot about the digital skills gap, and this is a gap that especially our progressive tech companies see as their biggest challenge to keep growing and to keep developing themselves. And some of the reports say that we will lack 19,000 IT specialists in 2030. You have probably heard these numbers before. I saw a relative new report the other day saying that we will actually need up to 80,000 IT specialists in 10 years. So that's quite a lot. And international students are definitely a way to fill or to close this gap. And each year, thousands of you are coming to Denmark, and if you all got a job, there will actually be no skills gap. But the primary reason why you are valuable to the companies is not this. It's actually that you bring much more to the company. And through my work in Technology Denmark, I've met a lot of internationals, and every time I'm very impressed by the dedication and the talent that I have met. Not only have you decided to move to a foreign country to study, a country where it rains a lot. But most of you internationals really want to be a part of the Danish labor market as well. And that brings a lot of value to the companies. Professional skills, yes, but also diversity, new cultural insights, and an international mindset. And that's competences, personal and social skills that are the key to stimulate growth and prosperity. So that's really great. And like the mayor said, the mayor of Odense said earlier today, talent is a promise to advance in the future. And working together with a company is really an excellent way to unfold and accelerate your talent. So even though I know that some of you out there are struggling to get your first job here, my advice is to keep being persistent. And this conference is absolutely one of your opportunities. It's 2 full days of matchmaking and meeting interested companies, and don't miss this chance. Follow up on all the companies that you have met and build up a network, because that will help you open the door to find your first job and to accelerate your talent. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for these words from Mette. So now I'm only here to introduce one more short speak from someone who also made this day possible. It's the CEO of Odense Robotics, Mr. Mikkel Christoffersen.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you also for the opportunity to help finalize this really interesting event here today in the International Tech Conference 2020. So as Natasha said, I'm Mikkel Christoffersen, and I'm the CEO of Odense Robotics, which is the cluster organization for robot automation and drone companies in Denmark. So we're very glad that it was able for us to help executing this interesting event, and thank you for the team producing it to Copenhagen capacity, but also to the team here in Odense. Thank you for the companies to participate with the interesting presentations and the interesting discussions, and especially also thank you to all you guys spending time out there in the cyberspace listening into what is going on here in Odense today. So in Denmark, we have a really interesting opportunity right now in robotics, in automation and drones. Here in Odense, the city of Odense, we have more than 130 companies working within robots and automation. And all over Denmark, there's a total of more than 300 companies working in this space. And there's a lot of really interesting companies out there building global businesses who are in the need for talent right now and will also be in the need for talented people in the future coming. So that's why it's really important for us to be part of events like this today. We talk a lot in the robot area about robot heroes and using the concept of robot heroes. And it's really important for us to talk about this concept. So it's really about if you have a talent, if you're an engineer, software developer, if you look into the communication area, the marketing area, or the more commercial areas, there's some really cool opportunities for you to come and work in robot automation and drone companies, where you can actually be empowered to help make a difference in the world, because there's a very flat culture, there's a very egalitarian work culture in Danish tech companies, where you can also, as a young person, get a lot of influence in how will we develop the products we're working on moving ahead. And I'm sure you also heard some really good examples of that here today. But we're also talking about robot heroes, because it's actually companies who are innovators for a better future for a lot of people here on the globe. So it's actually companies taking away what is dull, dangerous, or dirty in the industry, or it's companies making empowering people to make a better life quality for themselves in the health area. It's companies making a difference in supervising and inspection in the environmental area, but it's also companies who is making it possible to produce with a much lower impact on our environment by using our scarce resources much more effectively. So Robot Heroes is also about becoming part of companies who actually help changing the future, changing the way that we will live or work in the future. So that's why we are so passionate about these bringing in talent for all these companies. You've seen examples here today of two really interesting robot companies from MIA and from Universal Robots, who have become global market leaders in their segments on a very, very short time. Actually, they helped build the global market segment they're working in. So it's very good examples of more mature companies who are globally oriented. There are also smaller, high-growth SMEs who are on the same path as what we've seen from Universal and from MIA. That's also a possibility. And then there's a lot of really interesting startups who are very innovative and taking a totally new approach to how to build these products and how to help change the world. So I can see you on the moderator. My time is up. It's okay. I'll just ask you all to keep looking into the possibilities in robotics and to reach out to all these really interesting companies and check out the possibilities to become part of what's going on here in Denmark. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mikkel. It was perfect timing. No problems there. So actually, we have only a few words left. We're about to end the two-day conference. And I have to say that I have been moderating this talent conference now for, I think, 7 or 8 years in a row. And of course, I'm used to meeting all of you. I'm used to talking to you. I'm used to shaking hands with you, taking pictures with you. And I miss all of that this year. It's been really different, like the whole year has been for all of us. And so I just want to say that I really appreciate that. We really appreciate that you've been joining us anyway this year in a virtual way. Also, I want to thank you for all your great questions on Slido. And for the final remarks today, it's from Copenhagen Capacity. You will meet Mr. Nikolaj Lubanski, who is the director for talent attraction. And I really can say that Nikolaj, through all the years, I have also been moderating this event, has been advocating for international talents like you. So he really is a true ambassador to all of you. And that makes it perfect that he will end the day. So please, Nikolaj, come on stage.
Yeah, and well, if
Thank you.
Stay there. Natasha,
I will
please
stay,
just
okay.
a second, because then I'll start my round of saying thanks to actually thanking Natasha. And even though we're not that many in here, shouldn't we give her a round of applause?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And while you're saying that, Natasha, we might actually look into some disruption here. We've been here for quite some years, so I'm giving me thoughts for how do we do it differently next year. So, but thanks a lot.
Thank you, Nikolaj.
Natasha, and for
thank
your
you
great
to all
work.
of you.
Yeah, for your great work. And thanks to everybody here. It's a great pleasure and honor to finalize this. As Natasha was saying, we've conducted this quite some years. It's been very different this year, but with the same pleasure. We also know that we are heading into some of your exams. Many of the talented people there are actually heading into their exams at their universities at the same time. So thank you so much for joining. Thanks for the companies and the young talent and representatives from the companies. It's been a great pleasure to have you on board. And we really enjoyed both the questions and all the discussions. I think thanks to Esben Østergaard, I think really a great introduction and giving the passion that you said. You also actually told us a lot about your own passion of why you are entering into this, and also how you will take that further in also looking into the SDGs and so on. I think that vision of having a personal passion is also something that's been carried through all the way in all the speeches, and also from the company side, you've talked a lot. You want to feel the passion from people. I think the great people, 6 young talents we had here, really gave that impression that you're not only there for a job, you're there for a life, but also combining a great life with a great job. I think that's absolutely something that both the companies, but also I can, in that sense, talk on behalf of Denmark and Talent to Denmark. I can say that's also what we're looking for, is that you actually would like to join in and be a part of a common effort of changing not only this small place in the world, but changing the whole world by adding to what we are trying to achieve in our small country here. So that gives me a great feel of heading into the future and a great sense of that. You often talked about your concerns about the future. When I look at you young people and all the people out there, the talent that participated today, but also at the matchmaking event, I'm very, very confident. I like to live in your world, so to say, for the future, with all your passions and how you will be driving society going forward. It feels me very confident that we are looking into a good and a great future in that sense. But we couldn't have done this great event today without our great partners at Technology Denmark and Odense Robotics. Thanks a lot for great partnership, and thanks a lot to the team. And especially, of course, Georgia, you have been the cornerstone. Many of you know the name of Georgia, the cornerstone of all we've done. Thanks a lot to Georgia and the team around it, both from the 3 organizations. Without this, it wouldn't be possible. So thanks for that. But I'd like to finalize with a couple of highlights I took off from today. And I think one of the highlights is also getting back to what Esben Østergaard said, is that it's not a man versus machine here. It's actually a matter of using the 2 efforts. I thought there was a lot of questions on Slido about if I come from humanities or from social sciences, what is my contribution into this? And that's precisely what some of the companies are looking for, is people that are able to take different perspectives, very different technical perspectives, and very more social sciences, humanities perspectives, and merge them, and actually get technology to work together with together with people and assets on that sense. So I think those of you who are in business or in social science, humanities, of course you should embrace technology, because we need that you actually take your stand on technology and get that into working for us as people. So I think that is a great takeout from today, that you should find that combination and work on that sense. And then I think the second thing is the thing I talked about before, curiosity, passion, that you show yourself what is your motivation for doing that. So I think all the companies mentioned that more or less. Please show that when you are entering into talks with the companies. Please show that, because that's the way you will get a job, is that they can feel that you're able to do the job, but also you have a passion, you want to be part of something. So that's really a great thing. So I'll just finalize with the words I said more or less before, that you out there watching this today, you are the future, and I'm so much looking forward to living in a world that is driven by your passions. Thanks for today.